Welcome to Instituto Cervantes. My name is Antonio Martinez, and as Executive Director of Instituto, in case some of you are not familiar with us, we are Chicago's not-for-profit center for Spanish language and cultural exchange. Our mission is to promote the Spanish language and the culture of all Hispanic countries. We are now the largest Spanish teaching organization in the world. Our goal at the Institute is to promote the education, the study, and the use of Spanish universally as a second language, to support the methods and activities that will help the process of Spanish language education, and to contribute to the advancement of the Spanish and Hispanic American cultures throughout non-speaking Spanish countries. Our teaching program includes a wide range of courses for adults and kids. The Institute provides a range of courses aimed at teachers of Spanish and educators. Education is a key issue for the Chicago area's Latinos, and we are here to help and support the administration, the public schools, and the families. In our role as promoter of Spanish culture, the Institute arranges hundreds of activities every year to raise the profile of this heritage. We feature the most significant works of international renowned Spanish, Latin American, and Hispanic artists living in the US and particularly in Chicago. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Latino Policy Forum for choosing Instituto Cervantes and its director, Silvia Puente, for choosing the Instituto for this extraordinary occasion. And I also would like to thank the Mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, and the candidates to the 2015 Chicago mayoral election, Robert Fioretti, Chuy Garcia, William Doug Walls, and Willie Wilson. Welcome to Instituto Cervantes, and good luck to all of you. Thank you for being here today. I would like now to introduce Marisela Garcia, Chief Executive Officer of Gas Hill Center and Chair of the Illinois Latino Agenda. Marisela.
Good morning, buenos dias. I am actually not only the CEO of Gas Hill Center, but I'm also the chair of the Illinois Latino Agenda. Not the agenda, actually, but it is the committee, the Civic Engagement Committee, just that clarification. And on behalf of this coalition, I would like to thank Instituto Cervantes for hosting the event this morning, and also would like to thank Univision for co-sponsoring the event, and CAN TV for live streaming the event in English, and OI for live streaming it in Spanish. Thank you to everyone for making this event possible. The audience here today represent the organization members of the Latino Agenda, and this coalition is the largest nonprofit organization networks in the state. With nearly 50 members across the metropolitan Chicago area, the Illinois Latino Agenda reaches more than 250,000 people each year in a wide range of services that include healthcare, family service, education, and small business development. We have organized this event in order to foster greater civic engagement in the Chicago municipal elections. Latino voters, a growing share of the city's electorate, will play a major role in determining the outcome of this election. And for that reason, they need to know the position of candidates on issues that impact the quality of life of the Latino community. With that said, I would like to introduce Enrique Rodriguez from Univision Chicago, who will serve as the event moderator. I would like to say something about Enrique. He is a 3-time Emmy winner, and actually he clarified to me that it's 5 times. But he's humble enough to say that what really motivates him is the work that he does to benefit and improve the quality of life of the community. He is an anchor and reporter for Univision Chicago, and you can catch him weekends on Noticias Univision Chicago and the programa Acción Deportiva Extra for those who like sports and want to learn Spanish, by the way. Enrique has interviewed President Barack Obama, Mexican President Felipe Calderón, former First Lady Hillary Clinton, Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villarraigosa, and Nobel Peace Prize winner Rigoberta Menchú, among many others. So Enrique, thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Wow. First of all, Marisela, thank you for plugging Univision Chicago Fin de Semana. Gracias a todos. Buenos días. That was a wonderful introduction. And you know what? I want to commend you for the incredible work that the Gatshill Center does on a yearly basis and that has done for over a century in the Pilsen community and the entire Chicago area. Antonio, yes, of course. This applause is for you. And Antonio, you'll all agree with me that we couldn't have chosen a better place to host this forum, right? Thank you, Antonio, for promoting our language and culture. How is everybody doing this morning? No desayunaron, ¿verdad? Let me ask you again, how is everybody doing this morning? Awesome. Well, listen, I need you to be upbeat and energized because as you already heard, we are live streaming this wonderful forum, okay? And by the way, I want to acknowledge CAN TV and OI for helping us with this event. Let's give them a big round of applause. Absolutely. I also want to let you know that my news director, Terry, ever since she arrived in Chicago, she said, you guys got to get into social media. You know how it is nowadays, right? So, usted no está para saberlo ni yo para contarlo, but I became an expert on selfies already. So I'm already tweeting, okay? And the reason why I mentioned that is because there's a cheat sheet that I'm hoping that you all picked up when you came in at one of the tables. All the Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook addresses for all the parties involved in this event are here. We are using the hashtag Voto por Voto and Latino Agenda. We want you to tweet. We want you to let all the Latinos at home who are watching, we want you to let them know what you think about this event, okay? Why are we here? Well, first of all, I gotta say, for me in Univision, it's very important because we care. We care about you, all the nonprofits, because you are the guys and the individuals and the professionals who actually encounter our youth, our families, on a very face-to-face basis. You guys practice a human touch. You know what the issues are, whether it is economy, education, crime, you name it. So for us, it's very important that you're here. And that's why Univision is delighted and excited and proud to be part of this, okay? So let me explain to you how the process is gonna work. I know Mayor Emmanuel is here waiting to be introduced, and I'm sure he's listening, but I'll remind him once he comes on stage. Every candidate is gonna have approximately 18 minutes to talk about the platform. What is it that they wanna do if they're elected the mayor of this great city of Chicago? When they are finished, I will be asking 4 questions. 3 of those questions were put together by the Illinois Latino Agenda, which, as you know, in conjunction with MALDEF and the Latino Policy Forum, do an incredible job. They are the leading Latino-led nonprofit coalition in the state. So there's a 4th question, and that's gonna come from me, okay? And of course, my news director had a lot to do with it, in case you're wondering. So once the candidates are finishing answering those questions, they will have the opportunity to do a closing statement. And after that, we'll have a 5-minute break in case you need to go, get some water, get some coffee, stretch, while the other candidate comes in, settles down, and it's ready to be introduced. How does that sound? All right, a couple of other things. Let me introduce you to Richard. Richard is by the exit door. Can you raise your hand, Richard? Give a round of applause to Richard, please. That's right. Richard is an incredible security guard, and you know why he's here, right? To look out for you. And you know what? We're gonna show the mayor and all the other candidates what Latinos are all about, because we know how to organize these events in style. Wouldn't you agree with me? Yeah. That's right. So I don't even have to ask you to not disrupt or be rude, because I know that's not gonna happen, okay? So with any further ado, please help me welcome the mayor of the great city of Chicago, Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Mayor, buenos dias. I hope that you're prepared because the whole forum is going to be taking place in Spanish.
Wait until you hear it in Hebrew.
In Hebrew, oh, I got to work on that. But anyhow, I'll remind you, you have 18 minutes. I want to introduce you to someone that you know very closely, our news director, Terry Arvesu. She's going to be the timekeeper. Okay. And I tell you, she's really good at it. Okay? So whenever the time is approaching, she'll be showing some signs to you.
Don't worry. Yeah.
We just want to be fair to every single candidate.
Totally.
So with any more details, Mayor?
I will only say it's funny because I thought not 15 or 20 minutes, and as you know in the Jewish faith, 18 means to life. So I thought it was very interesting that you picked 18 minutes. It's chai, and that's why you say l'chaim. It's to life.
Well, bienvenido, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank you, everybody, for this forum. I want to thank you for having me today, and I want to talk about the future of the city of Chicago, because this election is not about the next 4 years. It's about the next generation and what we're willing to do to make sure that they have a better future and a better city than the one we inherited from our parents and our grandparents. My grandfather came to this great city almost 100 years ago as a 13-year-old by himself, without a word of English and not knowing anybody, but to meet a third cousin he never knew from the old country in Moldova, which is a border between Russia and Romania. And he came here to get away from the pogroms in Eastern Europe, but also, like many generations of immigrants from all parts of the world, to start afresh, start anew in the pursuit of the American dream. In the same way that my father came to this country as an immigrant in the 50s from Israel. It was to give his children a chance at something better, something bigger. The city of Chicago has always been a city that welcomes immigrants. If we're going to build that future, it is because we're a great city that whether you come from Mexico or Moldova, which is where my grandfather came on my mother's side, from Poland or Pakistan, from Ireland or India, the struggles and the sacrifice are for the same effort, to give your children a chance to do something with their lives that they could not have done in your home. And that is the dream of Chicago. The city of Chicago is very unique. We have over 100 languages spoken in our school system. It's a place where people from all over the world, wherever they're coming from, come to this city, what I refer to as the most American of American cities, to again give their families and their children a chance at the future. When I ran for office, businesses, families, and jobs were fleeing the city of Chicago. The premise I made was that if we do the necessary things, the things that were important to start to face up to the challenges the city was facing, jobs, families, and businesses would come back to the city of Chicago. So we took on a series of challenges that had been pushed to the side, had not been confronted head on. And in that time, we made sure that every child in the city of Chicago, an education which was essential for the city, every child had a full day of kindergarten. Prior to my tenure, half our kids were getting 2 hours a day, and the other half were getting 7 hours a day. And I venture the kids that were getting 2 hours a day were the kids that absolutely needed 7 hours a day. We made a reform in the central office at CPS and put all the resources into universal kindergarten for every child in the city of Chicago, regardless of where they live. And the children that were getting 2 hours a day were the exact children that paid the rest of their life because our politics was not working for the families and the communities of the city of Chicago, and most importantly for the children. We are on course now for universal pre-K for all 4-year-olds from a family of need. And because of the reforms we put in place that raised the quality throughout the system, the federal government just recently, about a month and a half ago, announced that the city of Chicago is guaranteed funding of $600 million over the next 5 years to ensure, because the children will get universal pre-K for all 4-year-olds with family in need. Unlike New York or LA, which every year now have to recompete because the quality associated with that education did not match up. And in the single year in which we increased enrollment in our pre-K, we went from 24% of our kids kindergarten ready to 48% in a single year because of the qualitative advantages we've made. In the same time, we no longer are the city that's known to have the shortest school day and the shortest school year, but every child gets a full day and a full year. We don't make a choice anymore between reading or recess. Our kids get reading and recess. We don't make a choice between math or music. Our children get math and music, which is essential for their education. We have a rising graduation rate. 3 years ago, we had 4 out of 10 children dropping out of high school. In 3 years' time, 8 out of 10 will be graduating. And the most important thing we've done now is not only turn our community college system into career-based education in the most promising fields. But if you earn a B average in high school, community college will be free. The first city in America that's going to go from a K to 12 to a pre-K to college model. And I'll tell you why it's so pressing. This morning I was at the L stop on the Orange Line at Western. This may be fate, I met Ivan Cervantes. Ivan's a senior at Phoenix Military High School. Comes up to me and says, you know, I'm a little embarrassed, can I have a photo? I said, absolutely. I said, so where do you go to school? He goes, I go to Phoenix Military. I've missed you the 2 times you've been there. I said, it's okay. I go, what are you going to do next? He goes, oh, I'm signing up for your Chicago Star Scholarship. I want to go to community college, and then I want to go on to college, and I want to do the first 2 years for free. And I got to pick up my grades to get the B average. I'm one child ahead for the future. One child who's already, because of his parents, he will be able to go to college. He will be able to honor the sacrifice and struggles of his family to be part of the American dream. The doors that will open for him because he now is able, for free, to go to community college. Our budget, putting our fiscal house in order, was all about making sure that we did the necessary things, the tough things. We've balanced 4 budgets in a row without a property sales or gas tax increase. Every year for the 4 years, we put money back into the rainy day fund rather than take it out. And every year, we increased our after-school, summer jobs, and early childhood investments, basic neighborhood services, and our investment in the small businesses. Chicago now is the #1 city for corporate relocations, the #1 city for direct foreign investment, the #1 city for job creation of all big cities in America, the #1 cities families are moving back into, the #1 library system in America, the #1 park district in America, and I would also venture the #1 Little League team in America. But all of the reasons those started to move was because we were willing to confront head-on to the decisions and shape our future rather than being shaped by it. And one of the most important parts of our economic growth is make sure our small businesses have the capacity and the resources. The same efforts, because as I think, Enrique, you made this point, half the new businesses in the city of Chicago started by immigrants. So we created the first ever in the country micro-lending program, so you can get $15,000, $25,000, $30,000 to help get your business started. And hundreds of businesses have taken advantage of that, and hundreds of jobs have been created by that. We created the Small Business Center, one-stop shop. We reduced licenses from 147 to below 50. We had more business licenses on the books than Phoenix, LA, Atlanta, and Philadelphia combined. So we consolidated them. We eliminated the per employee head tax. And the Small Business Center will be the first center in the city of Chicago that will go totally paperless and totally electronic. So from your business, you'll be able to file whatever you need with the city of Chicago. You don't have to come to City Hall. You can stay in your business and deal with your customers. That's where we want to see progress. And as I always talk to people, and I remind people about the strength of our city, our neighborhoods, and our small businesses, outside of Michigan Avenue and the One Magnificent Mile, 26th Street in Little Village produces more sales tax revenue for the city of Chicago than any other commercial area outside of Michigan Avenue. It talks about the strength of our businesses and our investments, which is why I was proud as 10 years mayor that we closed the last 2 coal plants that were operating in any city in America, working with community leaders throughout the parts of the city. And then, in the shadows of not only closing the one in Pilsen and in the back and in Little Village, we then created the big park in Little Village, 22 acres of green space, open space in a community that lacks it. And it's those type of investments, those type of decisions that build the future and create the health and well-being of our city. So I don't know if that means the time is starting to come to, oh, okay. Thank you. I just wasn't sure if the movement was reflected. And our basic effort to strengthen our communities comes around by investing in schools, transportation, libraries, parks, and safety. If you create those investments, it creates a platform and a space for the private sector to have the investments and have the confidence to grow and build. And that has been the strategy of my administration. In the same way, if you go to back of the yards, we were building a high school. The community came to us and said, we're short of a library. So the first of its kind anywhere in the city, we created a neighborhood library in the high school with a neighborhood park, co-operated between the park district and the school. Kids from the high school come in one way, people from the community come in another way. It's the only one of its kind in the city, and I think it's the new model that we want to do. And it's not an accident, and it's also an international baccalaureate program, which is expanding here in the city of Chicago. We now have the largest IB of any city. International baccalaureate's a fancy way of saying liberal arts. But the back of the Yards High School, which is all international baccalaureate, just like Clemente is all international baccalaureate, just like Senn is all international baccalaureate, Lincoln, Taft, Hyde Park, and Morgan, and then we've expanded the IB to 19 schools, 5 additional on top of the 13. Into the back of the Yards has one of the best high school graduation rates of any high school in the city. And it offers parents a good high school option in their community. We've also now created a library. These are the type of investments that if you make the public investments, it gives the confidence for families and jobs to come and be created in the city of Chicago. The decisions we've made are to finally do what I think has been necessary over the years, and by shaping the future rather than running away from it, by willing to design and make the investments that we needed to, both in our infrastructure, in our schools, in our libraries, and our parks, we have done what is necessary to create the space. And a classic example, and I'll close on this comment, our libraries now are basically the #1 library system in America. Not basically, that's what the analysis says by a German university. And one of the things they identified is how we've turned our libraries into real community centers. In every library, first city to do it, are citizenship corners to help create and help people get their citizenship. In addition to that, we're the only system in America where you have your library card, which is free, has your number on it, which is free. You can go online, English or Spanish, and get live tutoring from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. from kindergarten to calculus. Free. So any child, regardless of background, has the ability to access and get free educational opportunities. And what we've done at our libraries, both through technology and by also citizenship corners, is creating the environment to welcome people to the most immigrant-friendly city in America. The city of Chicago, the most American of American cities, is where immigrants from all over the world come to give their families and children a start, just like my grandfather and my father. And the decisions we make by being the most friendly immigrant city in America keeps the American dream alive, keeps our small businesses alive and the culture of entrepreneurship, and strengthens our neighborhoods. What we do, again, in the next 4 years is not about the next 4 years. It's about the next generation. And whether we can do for our children what our parents and our grandparents did for us, whether we're willing to make the tough decisions and necessary decisions to build a future where Chicago is a city for all people, regardless of background, regardless of where they come from. We're known as a city that works. It has to work for everyone. Thank you. I thought I was talking there for a second. Yes, I'm ready to talk.
Okay, it was actually very interesting when you mentioned and acknowledged 26th Street and everything that our immigrant community does there. However, I don't know if you're aware of this. You probably do. You probably do know this. But the median income for Latino households is $41,000 approximately, $6,000 less than the rest of the Chicago average, and $15,000 less than the median income level across the state. Mm-hmm. So we know what you've done, but all these members from the Illinois Latino Agenda who deal with these families, who know what it's like for a family to feel when they lose a job, they want to know what you would do differently to build prosperity among Latinos if you are reelected in this upcoming election.
Okay. Well, it's embedded in what I said, and I'll just say this. You know also the difference between a college education versus a high school education from an income level and job security. In the worst of the recession since the Great Depression, unemployment levels for those with a college degree were at 5% at the highest level. For those with a high school degree, they were north of 12%. By turning the community college system into a career-based education, so Malcolm X is all healthcare. In fact, yesterday when we announced and put the final beam up, Ms. Rodriguez, a student who came out of the healthcare system and now has a job at the Rehab Institute.
I want to remind you, you have a minute, okay?
Oh, I thought I was still operating on the 18. I'm joking. I'm joking.
You're a good
But
negotiator.
No, it's okay. Very simple. By providing people a free community college education, if you earn a B average in our high school, you're giving them a passport to the future. Making sure for like Ivan Cervantes and Ms. Rodriguez yesterday, Ivan Cervantes at the L Stop, you are ensuring they have a middle-class life and a middle-class dream because they have an education that the employers trained on gives them a chance to have exactly the income growth that you want to see and the career growth you want to see in the 6 hottest fields in the city of Chicago.
Mayor, and the reality is too that for many students in the city of Chicago, it's becoming literally impossible or more difficult to go to school because of all the violence that our city has. I do know that homicides have actually dropped in 2014, but shootings actually were higher. So I know you want to hire more police officers. We want to know how. But moreover, you're aware of the impact and the trauma and the mental health issues that our community has because of this high violence. A lot of mental clinics have closed, and this becomes a big issue, especially for our community.
Yeah, well,
What are you going to do to fight crime and
yeah, I'm
violence?
sorry. I am going to ask for more than a minute on a question like that. That's not, well, because it's worthy of more than a minute. The first thing let me say this. Yes, you can say homicides are down and overall crime 3 years in a row have declined. But we have children whose childhood are being stolen from them by the sound of gunfire being more familiar than the sound of laughter. The first thing I did when I became mayor is I took 400 officers that were sitting behind a desk doing clerical work and put them on the street.
But what would you do differently, Mayor?
No, well, there's somewhat you have to judge both the record you've done as a precedent. But if you, in addition to that, both through police, I've dramatically increased our summer jobs and after-school activities for our kids, and I'm going to continue to grow that because you want to give kids a safe place and alternative to go to. But make no mistake about it, gun control is key to making sure the flow of guns in the city are more dramatic here than New York or LA on any given weekend day. And if you don't stop the flow of guns, there's no activity of both police on their own or after school that is going to bring the safety. Now let me say one thing about mental health. I've fought to create mental health parity, both in Congress. Wait a
Time is
second.
up.
Well, then you can ask me another question then, okay? But no, you've asked a question about crime and mental health with 1 minute answer.
That's why,
No,
that's
no,
why,
no, that's
you know
okay.
what? That's why it's very important that you go straight to the point and tell us what you would do differently, because we know I mean, we know what you've done in the past. Let's talk a little bit, if we would, about another issue in the Latino community, which is education. Education is obviously a topic that is a big concern for us. You've mentioned in the past that it's important to you as well. Now, statistics show that the four top high schools in Chicago, the enrollment for Latino students has decreased. So if you are reelected as the mayor of the city of Chicago, what will you do to promote Latino enrollment, especially among males? Because the graduation rate is 10% less than it is for Latino females.
Well, first of all, the graduation rate, as I said, 4 out of 10 were dropping out. Now 8 out of 10 will be graduating, and it's increasing in all aspects. One of the reasons I've also made sure that we have the largest liberal IB, STEM, military systems in the country is to make sure that our neighborhood high schools are infused with educational alternatives for all kids of all backgrounds. And I just gave you an example of both the Back of the Yards and Clemente from the IB, as well as the STEM educations, and we have the largest military high school system with an 80% graduation rate and a 90% college attendance across the board, where a majority, or if not the absolute majority, equal majority, in a sense, between African American and Hispanic, are in those schools. Do I have any time left to go back to the mental health benefit? Thank you. When I became mayor, 90% of our mental health, we had lost 90% of our mental health funding because it was poorly organized and people were fleeing. We kept, and what we did is we changed the system as somebody who fought for mental health parity in Congress and helped create it into law. We made sure that there was a community of benefits, and that is for the first time ever, we added the new benefit of psychiatric care for over 2,000 people to actually get that benefit.
let's talk about unemployment. You've said,
Let's say that again.
let's talk about unemployment. You've said throughout your campaign that unemployment has been reduced by 40% in the last 4 years in the city of Chicago. However, the latest figures available in the month of September, the unemployment rate in Chicago was 7.8%, the second largest among the 10 largest cities in the United States. So my question to you is this, especially in regards to the Latino communities, how are you going to make sure that we promote Latino growth and jobs within our communities?
Let me just, I have a challenge to you on your data.
Okay.
Just last week, Chicago's unemployment, when I became mayor, it was a little over 11%, and it dropped to 6.2%. We created over 75,000 jobs, and we lead the country of all big cities in job creation. And our unemployment rate, for the first time in over a decade, is lower than New York City. The key to economic development across every part of the city of Chicago is making investments in our transportation system so people can get from home to work efficiently, making advancements in our educational level, raising people's educational standards, because your passport to a good job and a good career is ensuring that people have a high-quality education, and making sure that we also make the investments in our small businesses through both the micro-lend program, streamlined licensing process, eliminating the per-employee head tax, and making sure that we market the city and bring in the type of entrepreneurship across the city through our small businesses.
But what would you say to those who feel that the job creation is because a lot of companies from the suburbs are coming to the city with positions that are already filled and not available to unemployed citizens?
Well, the fact is, if we go through it, just like whether it's the Method Factory in Pullman, I mean, I'll go to all lengths, okay, to bring any company, whether it's 200 or 2,000. But I would say to you, take one industry specific, the hospitality industry. McCormick Place had dropped to 5th when I became mayor. I made changes at McCormick Place. We're now #1. It's added 12,000 jobs in the hospitality industry, both building the hotels, staffing the hotels, the restaurants throughout the city of Chicago. And because of the new jobs and the fact that we have grown in both convention business and tourism, the city of Chicago is #1 now in the convention business. When I came to mayor, we were 5th, losing market share. We now beat Orlando and Vegas. And there's over 10,000 jobs in just that sector alone. And that is throughout the city of Chicago.
We
not in
will
one
now
part.
allow you to do your closing statement. Yeah, you have a minute for your closing statement too.
Okay. This is actually, you know, my kids are a little more generous on time and dinner. Let me say this. The city, Chicago's always been known as a city that works. To be the city that works, it has to work for everybody, regardless of where you come from and your background, which is why I've put so much emphasis in making sure that we have a universal kindergarten, universal pre-K. All the challenges that you talked about, Enrique, they start when kids are 3 or 4 years old. Income disparity, educational disparities. And if you're not willing to take on that challenge, you could try to deal with it when it's more costly at the back end. But if you want to see a rising graduation rate to 85% beyond, you have to start when kids are 3 or 4. And our political system and the status quo of this city 4 years ago and prior to that, because of political convenience, allowed the kids to pay the price for our politics. We were willing to do the tough things and necessary things to finally give them an education so they can make the most of their lives. Everybody in this room has 2 things in common: the love of their parents and a good education. And we finally challenged a failed status quo to give our kids a shot to one day sit in the chairs that you sit in and I also sit in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good day. That was Mayor Emanuel, and you know what? While we have Mr. Fioretti, who is next, I would like to get some input from some of the members of the audience. I see a lot of familiar faces. How are you, Michael? Would you mind coming up here with me really quick? Yes. Let's give Michael a big round of applause for volunteering. All right. I love the spirit of participation, Michael. No, well, the reason why, if you can turn around, because that's the camera and we're live streaming. The reason why I ask you is because we want you and everybody at home who are watching the live stream to participate and let us know what they think about what the mayor just spoke about, you know, through Twitter, social media. For example, I know you have a youth program, you work a lot with the community, you know, to prevent violence. Are you happy with what he discussed in regards to the violence that we have in the city of Chicago and the Latino neighborhoods?
I don't think anybody in the city of Chicago should be happy with the violence in our communities. I think it's, we have a tragic situation. One child murdered is one child murdered too many. And until, we really concentrate on our young people and make sure that they're really invested in, I don't think any of us should be really happy with the status quo.
You're more than welcome to tweet about it, okay?
I certainly will. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, buddy. Let's give Michael a big round of applause. And, I want to remind everybody, in case you didn't notice when you came in, here it is. There is a table, actually, as you're coming in the lobby, that has the Illinois Latino Agenda 2015 Chicago Mayoral Candidate Questionnaire. There's 14 questions that they put together for every single candidate, and they elaborate a little bit more on their platform and what they're planning on doing. In case, for example, whatever the mayor or the rest of the candidates doesn't satisfy you based on what they said today, you can actually have this as a big reference, so you can have the necessary information that will allow you to make an educated decision on the 24th of this month. How does that sound? All right, very well. Now, I also want to remind you, how many of you actually voted already? Raise your hand. Oh, we have a couple of early voters. How many of you still have to vote? How many registered voters do we have? Okay, you might be wondering, why is Enrique asking these questions? Ya parece que estamos en la escuela, ¿verdad? Well, look, the job of the Illinois Latino Agenda is not to endorse any candidates. As a coalition, they're not allowed to do that, and you know it. But more than anything, what we want to do with this forum here and also with the live stream is to promote civic engagement. You want to know why? Does anybody know the number of Latino registered voters in the city of Chicago? I know you do, Terry. I know. Anybody? No? Well, we represent 27% of the city's population, right? But only 19% of the registered voters. And that, you'll agree with me, is a problem, right? Okay, so the question is, what is each of us doing to change that figure? And you know what? That's the challenge. And Terry can tell you, we have this discussion every time election comes around. Are we doing enough to make sure that our Latino voters get out, get excited, get out and vote? And the question, the answer is, well, we feel we're doing enough, but the reality is we're not. And so we need to be more active, whether it is through PSAs, whether it is through civic engagement in your different organizations. We gotta step in and we gotta move on. Martin, how are we doing? Is Fioretti here? Yes. He is. Oh, all right. Is he? All right. So let's go ahead and introduce Mr. Bob Fioretti. Alderman Fioretti is here, ready to talk about his platform. And let's make sure that we give him a big Latino welcome, everybody. Please help me give a big round of applause to Mr. Fioretti. He's coming? Okay. I guess he didn't hear our applause, so we're going to have to do a better job. As you know, Mr. Fioretti, he's been an alderman for many, many years. And I do know for a fact that in the past he wanted to run, but he has some health challenges, and he didn't have an opportunity to actually go after this election. But we're very excited that he's here, as well as the other candidates, to share their platform and let us know exactly what they feel about the city of Chicago and the Latino community. And going back a little bit to the voting issue, that's something that I take very personal, and I'll share this story with you. Last year was the first time that I was able to vote. It took me 27 years to finally vote. That's right, that's right. So, we always say in Spanish, lo que más cuesta, lo que uno más aprecia, right? And so, I cannot tell you how many times I was wondering, when was I going to be able to vote? My process took forever. But I'm finally here, and now I know the opportunity that I have in front of me, and I appreciate it. And I just hope that every single one of you here and watching at home does the same thing. Mr. Fioretti, you ready? Let's give a big round of applause to Mr. Fioretti.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just want to remind you, you're aware of the Illinois Latino Agenda, right?
Yes.
They reach 250,000 people every year. And many of its members are here today, anxious to hear from each and every one of the candidates. So you can talk to us about how you're planning on changing the city of Chicago. You're going to have about 18 minutes to talk about your platform. At that point, I will come up here on stage, ask you 4 questions. You're going to have a minute to answer each question and a minute for the closing statement, okay?
Fine.
I'm sure you know Terry Arvezo very well, our news director. She's our timekeeper.
Yes.
She's doing a heck of a job. So she's going to keep you on track.
On track,
So we're
okay.
fair to the rest of the
Good.
candidates. How does that sound to you?
Sounds good.
Excellent.
18 minutes, though. I don't know, you can either speak under or a lot more, so depending. Anyway, I do want to thank everybody for being here today. Chicago is headed in the wrong direction. I'm Bob Fioretti, and I'm running for mayor because I love our city. You know, my values were shaped on the South Side by my working class parents, an Italian immigrant father and a Polish American mother. You know, I became a civil rights lawyer, and currently as alderman, I push a progressive agenda for the city of Chicago. During my time as a civil rights lawyer, I fought many of the wrongs in our justice system. And as alderman, I do push an agenda for all families across this city in every neighborhood and not just those at the top few. I have fought corporate giveaways. I've marched with the workers for a living wage, and I've made common sense proposals to get our city working again. You know, we have a choice this election day. More of the same from career politicians or a new direction from somebody who's fought in the trenches. My vision of Chicago is a Chicago with safe streets and strong neighborhoods. I am the candidate with the experience to get us there, who's fought in those trenches. And we need a leader who is both tough and fair. That is why I am running. There are many issues that face our great city, and I think you may have already talked about them and you know about them. Whether it's public safety, education, our financial health. As to public safety, it is the #1 issue across this city. It affects every neighborhood, every community, and everybody. Public safety, yeah, I mean, if we go back to December and look at what all the major killings and murders were about, it's almost like an arc across this city. The young immigrant from Loyola, a student, killed there. The young man outside of Truman College who was actually working, unloading his car, killed out there. The father of 4 at 31st and Ogden, or at Ogden and Western, he was 31 years old. And then we had a fight over a jacket at 63rd and State Street for a 15-year-old. And those are just the highlights of what the media reported in terms of people that were killed. You know, we need a mayor who can address the issues rather than have press conferences and massage the numbers and deal with getting the resources to our police officers rather than having a press conference and saying we are much better than we are doing in 1965 in terms of the murder rate. You know, I have been a long-time advocate, and it's interesting to see that some of the candidates are the first time hearing about restorative justice. And they talk about restorative justice. But we've implemented restorative justice in our school system where it counts to make sure that it happens. And it happened, and I say this because unfortunately in 2008, there was a shooting and a murder of a young man named Reuben Ivey outside of Crane High School. The attendance rate dropped 40%. It was in the low 70s into the 30s. The following week, I knocked on 168 family doors and talked to the parents to get their kids back to school. But we ended up implementing restorative justice. I was elected from a ward that is a historic black ward. I was the first non-black individual. You know, with my roots from the South Side, and my ward had more schools than any other ward in the city of Chicago. We've used restorative justice up and down to make make sure. We put wraparound services, and we can find the resources. We created Operation Safe Passage to make sure our kids got to school safely without paying for it, because they were more concerned with the passion of their children rather than their pocketbooks as they get paid here on the streets right now. But we need more jobs, and we need to restore, at the same time as I go into education, trade and vocation back into our educational system. Education, clearly, to many of you here in this audience, is the issue that affects your children and whether you stay in this city. I have been for an elected school board since going into the city council in '07. Nobody had to twist my arm, tell me what to do on it, or how to vote. We should be a model, though. We're the only, as you all know, we're the only school system, school board in the state of Illinois that does not have an elected school board. I'm pleased today that Sun-Times finally came out and said, oh yeah, we should have some kind of an elected school board. So, because they know where the people are going. We're over, I bet under all those wards that are having it on the ballot, we'll hit 75, and in some wards, 85% in favor of an elected school board. We need one now, because and one that will reflect the diversity of our city, so we don't have the special interests, so we don't have the continuing conflicts of interest that we see currently on this board. At the same time, I want a moratorium on charter schools because they do take away the resources from our neighborhood schools. They've led to the decline of our neighborhood schools. We need to focus on making sure that we have the right resources across the board for our neighborhood schools, so our children, no matter who they are, what zip code they're in, can receive not just a good education, but a great education. We need to restore trade and vocation within our school system now. We talk about it as part of our community college effort. Well, at some point we need to understand that kids do want to use their hands. They want to use they want to go into the trades. And I was with a group of individuals earlier today at 8 o'clock this morning. We had a discussion. We have all these other STEM schools and curriculum tight schools. At some point we need our kids, and I'm in favor of them, but we need our kids to be kids. Let's let them learn if they want science and technology and engineering and math. But I like to call it STEAM. Let's put the arts in there. Let's put the physical, the gymnasium in there. Kids need to be kids. Let's not rush them into being adults and grown-ups at a time like this. At the same time, I do want, when I talk about education, I was the only candidate out there that went to many of the hearings, and I marched with the teachers. I went to the hearings on the parents' hearings on the closures of our schools, which I think showed not just turning your back on communities, but really utter contempt in terms of many of our communities of black and brown here in this city. I testified before the administrative judges on that process, and they recommended on some of those, because we came in with the evidence to show that some of those neighborhood schools should remain open, that they should keep those open, the administrative judges. But the school board went ahead and just closed all 50 of them anyway. It was unfair to our communities. But how do we get out of the problems that we see out there? Jobs, we can all talk about jobs, but we need, among them, we need financial transparency on what's going on with our TIF programs. We all know what the TIF programs are and how they do it. But we need strong ethical leadership that comes from the fifth floor. Not just saying I've signed certain executive orders, but we need to show, because we've introduced seven items, 7 ordinances that deal with ethics here in this city that the mayor campaigned upon, but refused once he got into office to put into effect. We need a strong inspector general. We need a strong legislative inspector general. We can find what we need to do here by finding, and from there, create jobs in our neighborhoods, tax-free zones, so we can bring small businesses to our areas, and together we can work. At the same time, as I was saying about ethics, You know, you can look at the mayor's campaign fund, and I think you see everything that's wrong with the city. We're now up to what, $32 million, money that comes in and flows in from outside the city that are not people that are involved in our city. Who is making off from this campaign fund? Are the rich getting richer here in our city, or is it coming from the neighborhoods? And I can tell you the money is not coming from our neighborhoods. What's he doing with that money but rewriting history, rewriting what he's done, and it's time for a complete understanding on where we're going. You know, I appreciate this forum because of who you are, but I've been to every public forum that has happened. I think I'm the only candidate that's been at each and every one of them. There are empty chairs, but I must say that Willie, Doc, and the commissioner have also come to many of them. It's important that we meet with our communities. It's important that we meet with groups like this, and especially if they're live streamed and streamed on Twitter and Facebook and everything else. But I have asked that we need more debates. We need 1 or 2 more debates even before this election occurs. So we, instead of getting those canned responses, we get real answers to real questions, and that the candidates can debate about what the vision of this city is all about. So I do want to thank everybody for having me here. Hopefully I'm under the 18 minutes, so you can probably stretch your legs quicker than when I'm done. But again, I thank everybody for being here.
Thank you, Alderman. Let's talk a little bit about...
Are they yes, no?
Actually, you have a minute. I know it's
Okay.
not a lot of time, but we want to be
Good.
fair to all the candidates.
Good.
Let's talk about income inequality. The median income for Latinos in the city of Chicago is just above $41,000, way below the rest of Chicago and the rest of the state. How do you plan to change that if you're elected the mayor of the city of Chicago?
Thank you. First of all, I do think income inequality is a driving issue behind this election, whether it's crime, our schools, or our fiscal health. I have, when I said I marched with the workers, I am in favor of $15 an hour now, not down the road, especially with companies with revenues over $50 million. They can afford it. When we address the issue on the floor, raising it up to what we'll call $13 an hour, because that really doesn't go into effect until weeks before the next mayoral election, I said that companies like Walmart, $4 billion in profits, McDonald's, $1 billion in profits, Candy, $1 billion in profits. They can afford it right now, and we should move it up to $15 an hour. At the same time, when we move this trend upwards, we need to help small businesses, because a lot of them are marginal here in this city. So we need to find the right way to approach and help our small businesses with certain types of tax relief.
Very well. Crime, homicides are down. We've been discussing it throughout the morning, but shootings are not. That's a big concern to our community. You know, violence creates trauma, a lot of mental health issues for our families in the city of Chicago. Clinics continue to be closed, and that's another issue that all the community, especially Latinos, face. How would you change that?
Well, first of all, when you said about the clinics, yes, I have been in favor of opening up all the mental health clinics. It's only $2 million. I wish the mayor would spend that out of his campaign budget and open them up. I live near the hospitals. I hear those ambulances, especially on the weekends. You know, when we talk about murders are down, what happened, and the comparison is what, 1965. You now use a phone if you had a shooting across the street, and you make it happen right away. What happened in 1965? You'd have to, well, where's my quarter or dime, whatever it is, where's the nearest payphone to make that happen? And our advances in our life support systems in our ambulances have saved many lives. Yes, shootings are up. I just looked at the figures for this month, you know, and we need to do better. But we need to find jobs in our communities, and that's the way we're going to, community benefits agreements. We have so many jobs that are really happening in this city. I just had a job fair for veterans only 2 days ago, and to help, to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Very well. Enrollment is down for Latino students in the top 4 public schools, high schools in Chicago, and that's mainly due to a consent decree that was lifted by a U.S. district judge in 1980. How would you promote Latino enrollment, especially among Latino males, because their graduation rate is 10 points less than females?
Well, first of all, again, I think we need to look at, those words holistic, I think we need to, I'll use that word, but we need to make sure that the lower grades have the right kind of education. We're not preparing our children who go through and graduate, really, or even go into our community college system for the world. We're not preparing them to graduate. As I said when I started off, do we want to have all of our kids to become science, technology, engineering, or math? No, kids need to be kids. We've got to look at what the longer school kindergarten means, because the educators are pretty well divided on this. We've got to look at what we're doing to help. We've got to come into our communities. CPS speaks 190 plus languages right now. So we've got to find the resources in our neighborhood schools to help.
How would you do that?
On the resources?
Yes.
I think, first of all, as I've said, surplusing the TIFs in the past. We need to direct that money. I mean, the mayor took our suggestion 2 years ago to surplus the TIFs to help maintain the teachers. But we need teachers that can prepare our children for a global society. And we need to get out of these gang problems. We need to look at what we can do for jobs. We need to zero in our neighborhoods, because we are a mosaic, not a melting pot.
Speaking of jobs, unemployment has decreased during the first 4 years of Mayor Emanuel by 40%. However, recent reports for the month of September state that the unemployment rate here was higher, was the second highest among the 10 largest cities in the U.S. That is a big problem for the entire city, but that's something that our community struggles with a lot, finding a job, losing a job. What's your plan to create more jobs and make sure that they go to our communities?
Well, first of all, I think we need to, how we create more jobs in the trades, vocations, and we need to hire from the city of Chicago. We need, on all these TIP programs that we have where we give money, let me just back up for a second. During the petition time, I went to Hyde Park. There were 7 people that were in a restaurant, and I asked them to sign their petitions. They said, "Oh no, we can't." And I thought, "Oh my goodness, there are 7 of them," and they were working on a TIF project, a city finance project. All 7 of them lived in Indiana. They were all good paying jobs. We need to change that structure around, that if they're TIF programs, high zoning programs, and at the same time to create incubators like 1647 Blue, which is right in Pilsen. And that incubators can create systems for allowing for more jobs, good paying jobs, not the hospitality industry type jobs.
I see. So you want to definitely put more focus on the TIF funds and make sure they're used in our communities.
Yes.
Thank you very much. You now have a minute for your closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you. And as I said, it was great to be here. This election is about choice. I want a Chicago that works for everyone, not just the special interests that give to one campaign or the big donors to another, but I want a mayor that looks out for everybody in this city, every community. As I said, and we only touched upon it, Chicago has a lot of needs, from development of economic jobs and economic development outside of the loop, but in our neighborhoods. At the same time, we need to deal with our crime problem. We need to solve our financial problems today, not tomorrow, especially this pension program that's lingering over us. We need to support our neighborhood schools, our mental health clinics to reopen, abolish our red light cameras, and at the same time, support our neighborhood small businesses. As I've said before, if you're happy with the way things are going in Chicago, then welcome to the 1%. If not, vote for me on February 24th, and I thank everybody for being here today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Que se escuche el aplauso otra vez. Let's hear that round of applause for Alderman if you're ready. And up next, we're going to have Commissioner Jesus Garcia. And while he gets here, I would like to get some reactions from some of you here in the audience. Who wants to volunteer? and motivate our people at home to tweet. And why don't you come forward, please? Here we go. Tenemos otro valiente, ¿verdad? I'm going to ask you to be right here because we have the camera. We're live streaming. We want to make sure everybody at home is able to see you. Why don't you give us your full name, and looking at me and the audience, your full name and the organization that you represent.
Okay, my name is Alejandro Rodriguez, and I am a representative of Dock Walls.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, what do you think so far about what you've heard from both candidates?
Well, I'm glad that they're interested in bringing up their roots of immigrant descent, and as far as
As far as the issues that they spoke.
yeah, as far as the issues, the real concern is that I'm glad that they're mentioning our youth. Our youth are important. They need confidence and they need support when it comes to continuing their education. I'm a veteran, and I'm a Chicago-born and raised kid from Mexican, heritage, and I believe that strong confidence in education is the way to the future. Our parents, as immigrants, working hard, couldn't afford or even didn't had the knowledge to get us forward and help us with our homework. But now, as we're going from generation to generation of being Chicago residents and citizens, we need to change that, and we need to build that confidence. So,
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. That's very important. Now, are you satisfied on all the other topics like education and for example, healthcare, the violence? Is there anything that hasn't been mentioned that you would like to hear from the candidate?
I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied because there is a lot of concerns. Healthcare, specifically, we know that a lot of our people are really prideful, and they don't seek the care that they need because of a lot of other concerns. They want to hide in our people are the shadow people. They're the hardworking people that are in the background that don't get the attention that they need, and that rightly deserve. They're willing to work really, really hard, and stack it up for the family. Healthcare is a big concern. I work in the healthcare system now at the VA, so I believe in that. And I believe that there is a lot more change that needs to come in to play for us.
Well, Mr. Rodriguez, thank you so much. And by the way, do you have a chance to vote already?
Oh yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
You're an early bird.
Yeah, very personal.
Well, in case you don't know, the early voting period started on the 9th and it goes all the way up to the 21st. Okay, there's 51 sites available where you can go and vote in an early fashion. All you gotta do is bring your government issued ID, okay? That's very, very important. You can do it Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5, and then on Sundays it's 9 to 3, but the only thing is that on Sundays, there is 5 locations available, that's it. So the options are there. You just gotta get out whenever you have some free time, and just get it out of the way so you can avoid all the long lines on Sunday, right? Thank you. Y gracias por tu servicio otra vez. Let's give him a big round of applause. And I'm still waiting to hear from Martin. I don't know if Mr. Garcia, he is here? All right. Okay. Well, let's give a nice welcome to Commissioner Jesus Chuy Garcia, please. Here he comes. Chuy, buenos dias. Thank you for being at the forum with us this morning.
Buenos días.
I want to remind you, just like with every other candidate, we want to be fair with everybody. Yes. You have about 18 minutes to talk about your platform, how you're planning on changing the city, what your plans are. And then after that, we have 4 questions for you. You have a minute to answer each question. Yes. And you know Terry Arvezo, our news director, very well. She's our timekeeper.
Very well.
Okay, she's gonna make sure that we stay within time to be fair with the other candidates. I do have to say I've had a chance to ask a follow-up question to the previous 2 candidates, so I'm gonna make sure I do the same with you, okay?
Very well.
Once we're done with the 4 questions, you have a chance to do a closing statement for a minute.
Great.
Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All yours.
Great. Thank you so much to the board of the Latino Policy Forum. It is truly exciting, I have to confess to you, to be here this morning, in spite of the many familiar faces that I'm sure are out there in the audience. I am excited to be here because of my connection to this organization, to the organizations that comprise the Latino Policy Forum, and for your success in bringing all of the mayoral aspirants to address this organization, its members, and the Latino community, an integral part of Chicago and Chicago's future. So I want to begin with a brief introduction about why I decided to undertake this journey. I feel that Chicago is at a crossroads. The past 4 years have given people an opportunity to decide whether they want to continue on the present path or forge a new path for Chicago. The present path is a path that has favored a select few in the city of Chicago while leaving behind most of Chicago's neighborhoods and ordinary people. I feel that my past, rooted in neighborhood building, addressing some of the most salient issues that Chicago is confronting, from violence in our streets to building good schools everywhere in Chicago, to efforts at rooting economic development equitably in all parts of the city, are some of my most important experiences that I believe have prepared me for this job. Chicago can be a city that is inclusive. Chicago can be a city that has yet to see its full potential in the 21st century. If we only come together across race, ethnicity, faith, and geography, we can marshal the full potential of Chicago's vibrant communities and ethnic groups to really shine in the 21st century. I believe that my life's work has prepared me to lead the city over the next 4 years. Thank you for your consideration this morning. This morning, I'd like to talk about some of the most important issues that are facing the city of Chicago in the area of public safety. Reducing gun and gang violence. I have proposed a multi-pronged approach to reducing the violence in the city of Chicago. There have been over 10,000 shootings. Let's not forget, each shooting is an attempt on a person's life. If this number is not going down, we're not doing anything to solve public safety. I believe that there are 4 pieces to a successful public safety approach in Chicago. One is the training of people in all communities and different parts of each neighborhood to engage in restorative justice. I've been involved in restorative justice for almost 9 years now, when I first learned about it and about its power for healing and bringing people together in the act of reconciliation, of restoration, and moving on, placing the responsibility after acts where there's harm by a perpetrator to a victim inflicted, community coming together around both victim and perpetrator and supporting them in moving forward. This is restoring the tear that has occurred in community fabric, holds tremendous potential in Chicago. At Cook County, we're committed to moving this initiative forward as we have designated $500,000, a modest investment toward restorative justice programs, but I've also been a member of a Chicago foundation that has made one of its most significant investments ever in the field of restorative justice. I've also said that one of the most important reducers of violence in Chicago would be jobs for young people, both during the summertime and after school opportunities. We're continuing to explore how we can increase significantly the number of jobs available to young people. I've also proposed the hiring of 1,000 new police officers in Chicago. I feel that one of the most important functions of government is to provide for people's public safety. If we can't do that, then truly we have failed as a society. My proposal is to keep the promise that the mayor made 4 years ago to hire 1,000 new police officers, but to train them specifically in community engagement, in problem solving, in establishing deep relationships of trust and mutual respect. In the aftermath of Ferguson and New York, this is something we truly must heed and respond to. Safety has not been a priority for this administration. While he keeps talking, the mayor that is, kids keep shooting. Getting guns off the street. I have a history in this at Cook County, having proposed and adopted an ordinance that protects young children whose parents may have legally at home guns, requiring them to keep them locked up or to provide for safety trigger locks and things of that nature to protect young children. Quality education. My priority as mayor would be to ensure greater equity in funding of our schools so that all neighborhoods have access to quality public schools. Our current enrollment system for preschool is flawed, and it puts working families at a disadvantage. It's been touted much, especially over the past year. I would decentralize the enrollment process and put teachers, parents, and local schools at the center of education. We also need culturally appropriate outreach in order to ensure that people have the opportunity to enroll their children in pre-K programs. There's actually been a reduction in the number of enrollments. I believe that we also must reduce the number of standardized tests because our children are over-tested and undereducated. As I've stated previously, we need to only provide the minimal required by law testing so we can focus on really educating our children. The ongoing, with respect to charter schools, I want to be clear. I'm not against charter schools, but I am opposed to the rapid expansion that I've come to call charter mania in Chicago. I would place a moratorium so we can take a closer look at which schools are successful, what's to be learned from them, and then decide how we move forward. The ongoing investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission of a Latino charter network is an example. There's at least one other investigation taking place. When Board of Education members' companies profited exponentially by doing business with the public schools, we know that there is a problem with it. Why is the mayor continuing to defend board members who clearly have either the appearance or, in fact, a conflict of interest? City colleges. The specialization hubs that have been created, while interesting and have great potential, have also caused significant transportation challenges for many people who want to take advantage of the new hubs that were created. Chicago's community colleges, in order to serve all communities, must also reflect that must also ensure that the personnel that is teaching and other administrative people playing administrative roles reflect the student body, and that there are adequate supportive services for students. Immigrants. I am an immigrant, and so were my parents, so I understand the plight of this community. I have never wavered in my support of immigrants, and I would certainly never tell colleagues to vote for the Sensenbrenner bill simply to preserve their seat. I have always voted and acted my conscience. Immigration policy in Chicago. I will make sure that immigrants have access to government information, documents, and services in their own language of choice. Every relevant government agency in my administration will have a person assigned to provide information, especially for people applying for DACA and DAPA, and information will be readily available through the city's 311 information line. I would expand the protection for immigrants in Chicago to be in line with Cook County policy and promote true community policing in collaboration with immigrant communities. Expanding the ordinance in the city of Chicago to include all immigrants in the city would show the city's commitment to the immigrant community and would create consistency between Cook County and city policies at a time when the state of Illinois has failed to enact protections for immigrants given the rescission that the governor made to previous policy. In addition, I would designate a community resource officer from the Chicago Police Department to serve as a liaison with the immigrant populations and make sure that there is a real and effective training so that police know how to respond appropriately to the needs of those immigrant communities. I would create a special municipal identification card for all Chicago residents, a municipal photo identification card accessible to all Chicago residents would connect them to services, programs, and benefits regardless of immigration status, homeless status, or gender identity. Ensure that there is a clear city policy on language access and interpretation services, especially when it comes to city services and the Chicago Public Schools. And you may recall that I was a pioneer in setting a state law to this effect, the Languages Service Act, which was enacted in 1995 in the Illinois Senate and the legislature. Per the Illinois Consular Identification Document Act, all Illinois businesses must accept consulate ID cards as identification. However, immigrants report there is widespread inconsistency in practice throughout Chicago. Chicago businesses must comply with Illinois law, and immigrants should have the support of the city in making sure that their rights are respected. Cook County ICE Detainer Ordinance. As you all may know, we led the nation. We received multiple threats from ICE that we were violating federal law, that we might suffer funding cuts. We were warned that the new ordinance would have a result in increasing crime in our community. Guess what? Nothing happened. Not one single incident happened. The law has been implemented over 2 years. We protected the Constitution. We protected the rights of the immigrant community. Ethnic advisory councils. I will restore the ethnic and LGBTQ advisory councils at City Hall. How does one lead without the direct input from the ethnic communities in Chicago and the LGBTQ community? Affordable housing. There ought to be an urgency to develop more affordable housing options for families. This means apartments with 2 or more bedrooms. Unused vouchers and funds should be used to build affordable housing. CHA is sitting on 12,000 housing choice vouchers at a time when there are 6,000 homeless people in Chicago every night. With all of the unused vouchers and funding that this mayor could have made significant strides to ending homelessness, but we have not, and there isn't a good answer as to why we sat on these invaluable resources. Healthcare. My approach to public health as commissioner in Cook County has been to raise awareness in our communities. I have a health task force that meets regularly, and I convene a health series to discuss health issues affecting my constituents. This morning, as a matter of fact, we conducted a workshop on diabetes. Last month, it was depression. Healthcare is a human right, regardless of citizenship status. I have proposed the consolidation of the City of Chicago Department of Health and the Cook County Health and Hospital System to improve the quality of care and save taxpayer dollars. I support reopening up the mental health clinics the current administration closed. Economic development. For the past 50 years, City Hall's economic development has focused on downtown, which comprises, interestingly, 1% of Chicago's land mass. 1%. Precious city resources have been given away to the richest corporations in the world to make them richer at the expense of our neighborhoods. What are the results of this policy? While the U.S. population more than doubled since 1955, population in Chicago decreased by 25% since its peak in 1960. Homegrown businesses left the city for the suburbs and more economically progressive areas, and young families picked up and moved with them. It's no accident that residential towers are shooting up in the West Loop and River North to house professionals who work in the Loop. All the while, vacant lots and empty homes throughout our neighborhoods multiply. In our lifetime, the neighborhoods have been the last for real attention. It's only gotten worse in the last 4 years, while this mayor has attracted a more dubious category of businesses to the city center. dubious because they are footloose and portable and will chase the next better offer to relocate, taking jobs out of Chicago that were first created with Chicago's money. It's a uniquely dangerous approach in American business because this has created a mentality in this city and about the city that great success can only happen in the city center. Contrast that with other cities that outperform Chicago. You do not find that mentality in New York or LA or even Indianapolis. The high performers know that great cities sell themselves. They don't need to be sold. Chicago can easily accommodate 1 million more people than reside here today. This is essential for sustainability. We have assets spread throughout our city that are attractive to businesses. Perhaps not businesses that you'll read about on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, but businesses that will invest and stay in our city. Businesses that will put their roots down in Chicago because we have extraordinary resources. Businesses that will occupy the large tracts of underutilized industrial and commercial land because it provides them a competitive advantage. Businesses and industries in which people can have good careers. Counting jobs is only half the score. Counting good jobs is what really counts. Here is a starting point to transform the economy for all Chicago. I call it Chicago's new century of progress. It would establish a $100 million bond issuance program approved by the voters through referendum to invest in tech-based economic development. The precedent for this is the state of Ohio. It would target research, development, and commercialization collaboration, entrepreneurial support, cluster development, workforce development, would leverage the opportunities generated by the new Digital Manufacturing and Design Innovative Institute at UI Labs. There would be special incentives for investment outside of the downtown area. Worker cooperatives. I would establish a $1 million fund in cooperation with foundations to invest in worker cooperatives. There is an example of a thriving cooperative that came out of the former Republic Steel struggle of an enterprise that went under. Workers purchased it. They are operating a window design and production facility in my district at 35th and California, the old Campbell Soups factory that was abandoned, and it's where I bought my windows for my house last year. Ooh, 15 seconds. We would cut the cost of doing business in Chicago. We would order an outside independent audit of all businesses, regulatory licensing, and zoning operations with the aim of streamlining processes and establishing a service culture in city agencies. The Port of Chicago is a tremendous asset that has yet to go untapped. We can talk more about it perhaps in conversations, Enrique. I envision a city that works hard to make sure that every resident feels included, whether they are from Michigan or Michoacan. Everyone who chooses to make this city their home should have access to the same benefits and protections as every other resident of Chicago.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for respecting the time. We want to be fair to all the candidates.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, jobs and income for Latinos is a big issue. 41,000, just above that, it's the median level income for a Latino household. It's way below the rest of Chicago and the state of Illinois. What is your plan what is your formula to change that?
The city, because of electoral pressures, found it necessary, or should I say the mayor, to get on board with the proposal to raise the minimum wage to $13. The problem with it, it doesn't get to that level until at least 4 years from now. So people will continue to struggle with the challenge of earning very low wages.
So what would you do differently?
I propose increasing the living wage, the minimum wage, to $15 an hour. It's a way of lifting all boats. It would have the impact in local communities of increasing purchasing power. It would help create more robust shopping strips in the city of Chicago. It would provide people with more disposable income. I think it's the way to raise the living standards for people all over. Public schools, high schools, as well as city colleges can play an important part, but it really will depend on our ability to create new jobs, and that was what the end of my remarks were addressing.
Homicides are down, shootings are not. Latino communities continue to face the threat and the fear of the violence on the streets. Your plan, in addition, I know you want to hire more police officers, but in addition to that, what are you going to do so we can fight against gun violence and gangs, of course?
I think that positive alternatives for young people is most important. I think developing schools that become the center of community, that stay open after school hours for students, for parents, for community members at large, contribute to creating a safer climate in Chicago neighborhoods. How do I know? We've engaged in it in Little Village. People are coming in Little Village to find out how it was done, coupled with violence prevention programs that bring together stakeholders to devise strategies to engage young people, particularly in positive activities. In addition to that, there's a great urgency to create more employment opportunities for young people during the summer months, of course, but also after school. I would challenge the business sector in Chicago to partner with community groups to create more employment opportunities.
In addition to challenging the businesses, where will you get the money from to create all these programs?
We're scouring at the city budget. The city budget has increased expenditures, $1.4 billion over the past 4 years. I believe that there is more money to work with in the budget. It's a matter of priorities. That's not to say that the challenges we face aren't daunting, but it's also a question of priorities, such as my proposal to hire additional policemen and women that look like Chicago's communities to engage in genuine community policing.
We want to see more Latinos in the four top Chicago high schools. Unfortunately, Latino enrollment is down, especially on Latino males. Do you have a plan to change that and promote not only enrollment, but to make sure that they have equal access to those schools?
The desperation of parents throughout Chicago to get their children into selective enrollment schools, to the top schools in the city, can often be a heartbreaking experience for most of them. Part of the reason that we have people scrambling, parents and students scrambling to do their best to get into selective enrollment schools is because we have disinvested in our high schools, in making our local high schools better places that offer a robust set of educational opportunities, such as advanced placement courses, dual language opportunities, STEM curriculum. Enriching the curricular offerings in those schools is a part of that solution that would end the scramble for the selective enrollment schools. A more equitable education policy that invests across the board, particularly on the south side of town, could help change that reality and will change that reality under my watch.
Under the first 4 years of Mayor Rahm Emanuel, unemployment is down 40%. However, we do know that is above many of the top cities in the United States, and for the Latino community is higher. How are you going to change that, Jude? Because that's a big challenge.
Chicago is behind the top 4 cities nationally in terms of its recovery post the Great Recession. I think in part it's because most of our efforts have been concentrated on the downtown area. The downtown area is doing fine, it's robust, it's a shiny city that we value. I want to see it continue to be strong. It is time to target our resources in the neighborhoods to attract manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing. It includes things like urban agriculture. It includes vertical farming. I've seen places like that in locations outside of Chicago. Chicago makes it too difficult with many requirements and bureaucracy to engage in more entrepreneurial activity like that. That type of entrepreneurial activity creates real jobs, it trains people, and it puts people on career paths to earn even better salaries and become leaders in their communities.
We now would like to give you a minute for your closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Latino Policy Forum. This morning, I've shared with you some views on some of the most important challenges that we face as a city of Chicago. I believe that the city of Chicago can only become a better city, a world-class city, when we are intentional about developing and investing in Chicago neighborhoods. In order for Chicago to grow its population, and that it must do to become a sustainable city, we must make neighborhoods a priority. The quality of life, particularly as it relates to public safety, schools, create the conditions on the ground that will enable us to attract more investment by businesses, particularly in the new sectors that are producing jobs in the economy. Second to that will be workforce development strategies that are attending to the growth sectors in the economy. It's time for neighborhood revitalization. It's time for democracy. It's time to change the course that Chicago is developing in to ensure that ordinary people come first. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Commissioner Garcia, thank you. Gracias. Okay, that's 3 of the candidates. We got 2 more to go. Do we have, I can see very well from here, do we have any youth in our audience? By any chance? I know, we're all young, right? No, this is actually a good time for anyone who feels the need of stretching, maybe standing up, going to the bathroom, grabbing a cup of coffee, a cup of water. It will take a couple of minutes for the next candidate to be here. Next, we have Mr. William Doc Walls. He's a community and political activist. Why don't you all stand up? Why don't you all stand up? Whomever is not going out, please stand up. Stretch out. Take a minute to relax. We continue live streaming, and I want to remind everybody, especially those of you watching at work, on your smartphone or at home, to let us know what you think about what the first 3 candidates have talked so far. What's your impression? What do you like? What do you dislike? What would you like the next 2 candidates to touch base upon on all the issues that affect the Latinos, whether it is education, whether it is violence, health? We talk about the mental clinics. I mean, that's such a big topic for all of us. It's really difficult to address an issue like that in such a short period of time, but we want to make sure that we give everybody an overall idea of what the candidates are proposing during this election. So when it comes down to making a decision on the 24th of this month, you give it a clear thought, you take your time, you analyze in a very careful way and precisely what each of the candidates are doing, and then you make a decision. Which of those candidates do you feel has the best plan, the best philosophy, the best idea to address all the issues that concern every single Latino in the city of Chicago? I want to take a moment to, let's see, is that Octavio? I want to acknowledge Octavio from OI. Let's give a big round of applause to Octavio, please. How are you, Octavio? Pleasure having you. Listen, thank you so much for live streaming this event.
Oh, well, it is exciting for us too. To have this opportunity to let the Latino community to see the forum, it will be great because they can make a decision based on this.
I'm sure there's a lot of Latinos at home watching the live stream that are wondering why are we not having another debate? But this is a great first step, don't you think? What do you feel this forum is going to provide for the Latino community?
Well, it's going to provide a lot because they are going to have the opportunity to make a decision based on what they are saying. They can make a decision, an informed decision, which is very important. It's not a matter of voting for the less bad candidate. It's a matter of voting for the one who's going to bring a real change for the city.
How do you feel thus far after we've listened to the first 3 candidates out of the 5 that we're going to present today? Anything that you don't like? Anything that you feel is missing? Anything that that you like about it?
Oh, well, yeah, as I mentioned before, it gives you an opportunity to see something different. Like, for instance, with Mayoral, I have seen that he was trying to stay away from a hot topic for him, which is violence. He didn't really talk about it until you force him, basically. Then we see Mr. Bob Fioretti, Alderman Fioretti. I think that he has a lack of excitement in his campaign, in his speech. That's something that he might need to work on to get some engagement. And then with Commissioner Garcia, I think that he has a lot of proposals. The point that I think he needs to work on is on how he's going to deliver all those promises. Because it's so easy to say, I'm going to do this and that, but it's really hard to make it happen.
You know, Latinos and African Americans, we have a lot of issues in common. In many occasions, we have the same fight. What do you expect, and what would you like to hear from the next 2 candidates? I'm talking, of course, about Mr. Walz and Mr. Wilson.
Well, I have been reading some of the responses they provide to the Latino Policy Forum questionnaire, and I have seen that they are trying to somehow engage with the Latino community. But it's important to do something with Latinos, to make them go to vote. That is important. It's so important to go out and vote. That's something that we need to do. Otherwise, we're going to be continually being left behind. So participation is important, and I think they can do a really good job at it.
Speaking of participation, have you been able to tweet?
I have been able to. I need to work on that. My battery is dying, so I'm going to take out my computer and I'm going to try to do something about it.
That means that you've been tweeting a lot. Octavio, it's always a pleasure seeing you. Make sure you stop by and see us every now and then, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Octavio. Let's give Octavio a big round of applause, everybody. Or the few that are here in the room, right? You know, it's funny. I knew that at some point, and I've discussed this with Luisa and my news director, at some point in between the breaks, it was going to be a great opportunity for people to stand up, stretch. Because let's face it, I mean, 18 minutes for each candidate plus 10 minutes for questions and answers is a long time, right? So we've been listening to 3 candidates now, and that's what, about an hour and a half just sitting down. It's a long time. So this is a great opportunity for those of you who are still here to maybe get out, grab some coffee, some water, stretch, maybe mingle a little bit with some of your colleagues out in the hallway. And I want to take an opportunity to once again invite everybody at home to participate. You know, social media nowadays has become an incredible tool for us to use, an incredible tool for us to communicate, to express what we feel. Of course, we all have to be very careful, right? But this is a great forum. This is a great way for you to let us know what you think, okay? This forum is not about us. It's about you. And the Illinois Latino Agenda, along with the Latino Policy Forum in Maldev, have done an incredible job putting this together. We're hosting it here at the Instituto Cervantes. What a better place to have it. But without your participation, this means absolutely anything. Because remember, the whole purpose, the objective, is to promote civic engagement. And for those of you who are at home, who are eligible registered voters, and who are thinking about whether I should vote or not, whether you should vote or not, because of whatever reason, maybe you don't like the candidates, maybe you don't like their proposals, maybe you feel that it's useless to have an election and a forum and debates because at the very end, candidates will end up doing the same thing. Well, listen, your vote counts. We cannot complain about issues if we do not do anything about it. So for those of you listening at home, in your phone, in the computer, at work, please think about it very closely. Take your time and make sure that you participate. Look who we have here, Silvia.
Let's acknowledge our Spanish language translators. This is the only event that's being simultaneously translated in Spanish for any of our mayoral events. Roberto and Catalina, muchas gracias.
Roberto, and you know what, Silvia? Thank you for bringing that up, because I know they've been helping us a lot in the debates, and I remember the Obama election. Yes, and I believe, so thank you very much to both of you for providing the Spanish translation. They are telling me that we have our next candidate here. Do we? Yes, Martin, we're ready? Okay, please help me give a big round of applause to our next candidate, Mr. William Doug Walls, community and political activist. Let's give him a big Latino welcome. Mr. Walls. Gracias por estar aquí. Thank you. I'm sure you're familiar with the Illinois Latino Agenda, but I just want to give you a picture of how important this forum is for us.
Sure.
This is the largest coalition of Latino-led nonprofits. It reaches about 250,000 people every year. Many of its members are here today, and they're anxiously waiting to hear from you. Because I was just sharing with a member of the audience that we Latinos and African Americans have a lot of the same issues. So, we want to give each candidate an opportunity to present their platform. Let us know what you think. You have 18 minutes to do it. After that, I will ask you 4 questions. You have a minute to respond each and every one of those questions, and then you will end up with a closing statement of about a minute, okay?
Great.
Microphone's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good morning. My name is William Doc Walls. I was born and raised in Chicago. I graduated Horace Mann Elementary, Chicago Vocational High School, Tuskegee University, and IIT Chicago Kent College of Law. Back in 1982, when Harold Washington announced his candidacy for mayor, every fiber of my being stood up, and I knew I had to get involved. I couldn't sit on the sidelines. I got sick and tired of arguing with people who told me that Harold Washington couldn't win. And so I made it my business to help make sure that Harold Washington did win. I came in and I organized the Lawyers Committee for Harold Washington, served as president of law students for Harold Washington, served as his assistant scheduler, and then became his direct assistant. And in that capacity, I had the pleasure of traveling with one of the most progressive mayors ever in the history of America, locally, nationally, and internationally. Sat in on 70% of his meetings, reorganized the departments of streets and sanitation, the Department of Water, the Department of Sewers, the Department of Inspectional Services, helped him to interview his other department heads. In 1984, the Sun-Times did an analysis of key members of the Washington administration versus key members of the Byrne administration. And they analyzed about 12 different departments. And then they got to me, and they said Byrne had no top aide as talented as Bill Walls. I was 25, and that simple confirmation was the wind beneath my wings that helped me stay committed and helped me stay focused and let me know that all of those sacrifices that I'd made weren't in vain. Now I'm a candidate for mayor of the city of Chicago many years later. This is my 3rd run for mayor, and people often say, well, why do you keep running for mayor? It's because I care about this city. Every time I hear 19 people got shot and there was only 1 arrest, my blood boils. And I have to be honest with you. This morning, I was watching the news, and they reported that an 18-year-old was arrested for shooting the 13-year-old last week after a beef on Facebook. An 18-year-old shooting a 13-year-old. And I honestly broke down and cried because it makes no sense whatsoever. And that's what our children are facing. I was just at West Belden grade school over on the west side, and it was a room full of blacks, whites, and Latinos, young 7th graders. And the interesting thing is they watched the debate, the mayoral debate, and they had a mock election. And I'm glad to report I got 53 out of 58 votes. That was overwhelming. They said it was a landslide. It was more than that. Again, that's confirmation that we're on the right track. When young people see your honesty and your passion, and they want you to come and speak to them, it's just, it makes it all worthwhile. So, I'm a candidate for mayor of the city of Chicago, and I'm relentless because I have solutions to the problems that the other candidates just don't have. Most of my other opponents are of a legislative frame of mind. There's a difference between being a legislator and being an administrator. Having worked with Harold, I know that when you push a button as mayor, things have to happen. Rahm Emanuel comes from more of a legislative perspective, and he hasn't figured that out yet. Rahm has 2 Chicagos. There's a world-class Chicago, and there's an underclass Chicago. That world-class Chicago is beautiful, it's safe, it's tourist-friendly, it's robust, it's full of resources and unlimited opportunity for Rahm Emanuel and the other 1%ers who have money, riches, connections, and clout. That's the Chicago the mayor and the media love to brag about and showcase in the magazines. And then there's that underclass Chicago, decaying neighborhoods, unsafe streets, people dodging potholes and bullets, inferior city services, abusive trigger-happy police, no jobs, no schools, no parks, no economic development, no neighborhood stores owned by the neighbors, food deserts, slumlords, gas and electricity shutoffs, real life, poverty. You have in those neighborhoods red light cameras, blue light cameras, speed zone cameras. You have people living check to check, extreme poverty levels, high unemployment. For example, on the south and west sides of the city of Chicago, 97% of the young black men walking around have no jobs. These are young men between the ages of 18 and 25. They're trying to establish themselves and trying to develop families and feed families, and they're suffering. And many people walk by them and think that they're a scourge on Chicago's population. But in fact, these are people who would work if given the opportunity. So we're committed to making a difference, committed to bringing Chicago up to speed. It's Black History Month. And I'm always reminded that from 1619 to 1865, we had 246 years of legalized slavery in America. It took the Underground Railroad, a Civil War, the suspension of the Constitution, the Emancipation Proclamation, and 2 constitutional amendments to finally bring an end to that shamefully brutal institution. And then we had 12 years of Reconstruction, and blacks were able to vote people into office, especially in the South, where blacks outnumbered whites because blacks had been slaves there. They ended Reconstruction abruptly, and then we had 100 years of Jim Crow. And Jim Crow is most remembered by the concept that blacks have no rights, which whites are bound to respect. And also the concept of separate but equal. We're still the most racially segregated city in America, despite the fact that it's 2015. And that bothers me. It's not necessary. I've talked to people who have come from places like Wisconsin or Minnesota, where they had homogenous communities. Everybody looked the same. And they moved to a city like Chicago because they wanted to be around other people and give their children other experiences. We're made stronger when we begin to coalesce with one another and interact with one another. I don't fear any other person. I believe that there's goodness in everybody, and if we simply have the opportunity to get to know, like, and trust one another, we'll figure out ways to work together. We live in a uniquely well-structured, well-ordered society where things don't just happen by chance, they happen by design. So if we're gonna get rid of the racial segregation in America and in Chicago, we have to do it purposefully. So what I suggest is that we desegregate our communities. Now, I would never, ever, as mayor of the city of Chicago, seek to engineer the migration or immigration of blacks into the stable white communities. That would likely destabilize those communities, do more harm than good. But what I would suggest is that we empower and strengthen those persons who are in those decaying neighborhoods, the Black and Latino neighborhoods that are underserved. Strengthen those persons and restore those communities for their children with a commitment to diversity, inclusion, and mixed income communities. If we do that, we'll invite people to come as pioneers into those communities and fill those vacant lots with houses and turn them into homes with children. And that'll give demand for our parks, our schools, our libraries. We're not as much disconnected as we are disembodied. We don't have an opportunity to come together. Sometimes language is a barrier. So I want to make certain that in our schools, our children are given the opportunity to learn various languages. That's critical and important. And to learn vocation, and to have recess, because there's no talking in school. So children have to have an opportunity to learn, to get together and experience one another's cultural differences and turn those into positive things. The most important thing that we have to do is unify this city by promoting culture and diversity sensitivity amongst people of all ages, races, socioeconomic backgrounds, all religious persuasions, all sexual orientations, all physical and mental disabilities and limitations, because at the end of the day, none of us is any better than anyone else. We're all in this together. And the sooner we recognize that, the better off we'll be, because as I indicated, we live in a highly competitive global economy. And that global economy was made possible not by the corporations, not simply by the internet, but by conscientious people, the not-for-profit organizations, non-governmental organizations, the educational institutions, preachers, teachers, average people, family members, and friends who wanted to communicate and cooperate with others of like mind across all geographical, sociological, philosophical, all ideological, political, all linguistic, all cultural barriers. So we learned to tear those things down. And then the companies and governmental bodies came in and really took it over, and it keeps us divided. But there's one thing that connects us. The vast majority of us are part of the 99%. The 99% of those people who care about the homeless, the disabled, the disadvantaged, our senior citizens, care about those people who live check to check and want to make a difference in the lives of just ordinary people. Chicago is an epicenter. We're a hustling and bustling metropolis. And we have the potential to be the beacon of light that makes America a better place. Many of us are frozen in place based upon the threats of terrorism. And those threats are real. And the only way to defeat terrorism is have a unified America. And that starts with a unified Chicago. If we have a Chicago that looks prosperous, safe, friendly on one side of town, on the north, northwest, and southwest side, but on the south and west sides is a very dangerous, unsafe, uncomfortable place, even for average citizens, we're not maximizing our potential. I want to bring everyone together and give everyone what they need to be beneficial in our society. I want a prosperity government, one which ensures that every single Chicagoan has equal opportunity. We want to keep Chicago's promise. That's a commitment to public safety, public education, affordable housing, senior care, full employment, balanced economic development, access for the disabled, and when all else fails, charity. And charity is nothing more than the act of giving unselfishly to those in need and expecting absolutely nothing in return. It's inside of all of us, but we haven't been asked to look around and see how people are suffering, to really care about everybody across all lines. You know, it's easy to come before an audience like this and just pander and talk about my commitment to the Latino community. My commitment is to all of Chicago, irrespective of where you come from. I certainly recognize that immigration is a major issue. And I understand that immigration, customs, and enforcement would love for Chicago to partner with them and have our police go and ask everybody who calls for police services, what's your immigration status? We would never allow that under my administration, because I want people to feel comfortable accessing city services, whether it be police, safety, fire, Department of Human Services, anything that's needed, because anybody that's here in the city of Chicago is part of our fabric, part of our family. So we want to make certain that Chicago is fair and attractive and invitive to everybody. Every essence, fiber, and milieu of the city of Chicago belongs to all of us. Because at the end of the day, there's plenty of room for all of us. There's plenty of money to go around. Over the next 4 years, there'll be $4 trillion that moves through the city, $1 trillion that moves through the city of Chicago. And the one thing that's really important is the mayor has the potential to make millionaires and turn millionaires into billionaires. And that should be done like Lady Liberty, Lady Justice, blindly. Everybody should have equal opportunity in the city of Chicago. And that's the kind of Chicago that I envision. I envision a Chicago where parents don't, generation after generation, teach their children how to apply for welfare. That's not prosperity. I envision a Chicago where no mother or mother-to-be or father-to-be even have to have a discussion about abortion. That was great back in the 1970s when it was new and novel and you had Roe v. Wade and it was fresh. But we've moved past that, I believe. I believe that every single child that comes here ought to have a place in Chicago. Now, I would never interrupt a mother's right to choose. That's her decision between her, her doctor, and her God. But I would certainly hope that we create a society where no mother feels forced to abort a child. I would hope that we create a society where no parent feels forced to tell their child that abortion is your best option. It starts with education. We have to provide a superior public school education for each and every individual child. And that transcends the development of modern buildings with state-of-the-art equipment and facilities which are conducive to safe and potentially productive educational environments. We have to do more than just teach our children reading, writing, math, and science. We have to teach them the arts, the humanities. We have to teach them vocations. We have to teach them how to appreciate the humanities. We have to teach them additional languages. We have to make these things available to our children, give them the opportunity to participate in well-organized sports. And then, on the safety side, which is equally important, we have to provide we have to establish irreproachable public safety services, not just in terms of the policies, practices, procedures, equipment, training, deployment, response time, and overall performance, but also in terms of making certain the entire police and fire department, rank, file, and command is proportionately reflective of the city's population, Black, white, Latino, and Asian. Everyone should have an equal opportunity to become a police officer, a fireman, a paramedic in the city of Chicago. Everyone should have the likelihood of having safety service personnel living in their community. It only makes us stronger. We can never forget our senior citizens because they've sacrificed so much for so long. And they deserve not only to experience the best, but to see us committed to making this a better place. At the end of the day, money matters, but what matters more is love and concern for your community and for other individuals. Chicago has great promise. We as a people don't realize how much promise we have. Brookings Institution just indicated that out of 300 major cities, Chicago ranks 203rd. We are suffering in terms of employment. We're suffering in terms of gross domestic product per capita, and we are not keeping pace. Rahm Emanuel's promise that he would make Chicago a better place for everybody has not been fulfilled. He's had an opportunity. What he's proven is that it's over his head. So we would hope that the citizens of the city of Chicago would send Rahm a very strong message. There's no guarantee that Rahm Emanuel will make the runoff. He doesn't have to. He has to earn his place like everyone else. Certainly, big media has come out and endorsed him, but that is not our guiding light. That's their opinion. We're experiencing Chicago in all of its raw reality. And at this point in time, I would urge you to look beyond Rahm Emanuel. He's been given a chance. Barack Obama introduced us to him and suggested that we vote for him, and many people did. But he proved that this is not his calling. So I'm committed to making Chicago a better place for everybody, and I'm asking for your vote. Walls for Mayor, punch 5.
Thank you, Mr. Walls. Under former Mayor Washington, the experience that you were able to receive working with him, how are you planning on using that to make sure that Latinos who come to this country looking for a better quality of life have income equality? Because the median income for Latinos is way below the city and the state level. So how would you change that?
Yeah, one thing about Harold Washington's administration, it was cosmopolitan. Everyone was included in meaningful ways. In decision-making positions on the boards, the commissions, Latinos, blacks, whites, and Asians were included. One of the most important things is economic development. We have a program that we've suggested And it requires the use of capital improvement funds, money that's available currently, approved by the City Council, for spending at the discretion of the mayor. What we'll do is we'll identify 1,000 Chicago area businesses that are industry and geographic diverse. And we'll give each of those businesses a $1 million grant for job creation and product development so that they can develop products that they can introduce into the stream of the national and global economy and bring new money, jobs, and opportunity back to Chicago. Those businesses are the nut and hub of our communities. They'll provide employment for the people in the neighborhoods. Blacks, whites, Latinos, and Asians will have equal opportunity at that grant.
Even though homicides have been reducing, speaking of 2014, shootings continues to threaten our communities, and of course, the African American and Latino communities are not the exception. Would you plan on hiring more police officers? How will you do that? And what additional steps are you planning on taking as the mayor of Chicago to make sure that violence doesn't prevent our communities from accomplishing their goals and dreams?
Safety is first. It's critical and important. We want people to feel safe morning, noon, and night. Shootings up 26%, arrests are down 15%. That says that we have a Rahm Emanuel problem, and the police department doesn't feel motivated by Rahm Emanuel. We'll motivate our police department to go out here and be proactive. And when they can't stop crime, solve the crime so that people know that we've gotten those shooters off the streets. The important thing for us is making certain that all communities feel safe and all communities feel represented. So we'll do just that when I'm mayor of the city of Chicago. We'll make certain that everybody is part of the solution.
Speaking of opportunities, Latino students are not having those same opportunities at the top high schools, public high schools in the city. Latino enrollment is actually down, especially for males. And graduation rate for males is actually worse than it is for females. So what would you do as the mayor of Chicago to make sure that more Latinos have access to these high schools?
Yeah, one of the things that we'll have is open enrollment in high schools all across the city of Chicago. Oftentimes, parents feel very comfortable having their child in the school nearby where they work. In case of an emergency, they can respond quickly, or in case something happens, they can go grab their child. So we'll have more open enrollment, and that will give blacks and Latinos an opportunity to go to school in some of the better quality schools. Black youth, black males have a 71% dropout rate, or they're kicked out of Chicago public schools. It's proportionately the same for Latino males. We have to have intensive care. We have to begin looking at their needs at pre-K and figuring out what it takes to get them from pre-K through 12th grade graduation and possibly through college on an individual basis, because it's not one size fits all. So language is oftentimes a barrier. We'll make certain that we have English as a second language possibilities, and employment. We'll make certain we have employment for our youth.
Jobs. Obviously, the mayor has spoken about the reduction in unemployment over the last 4 years. Many feel it's a consequence of the economic recovery. He says, of course, it's due to all the economic plan that he's implemented. Unemployment for Latinos is higher, however. How would you change that?
We'll make sure that we take a look at those barriers to employment for Latinos. And here's the most important thing. We want to empower Latino companies. Blacks and Latinos do not get their fair share of city contracts. Those city contractors hire people who look like them, walk like them, talk like them, think like them. You deal with people you know, like, and trust. So we're going to unbundle the contracts and make them smaller so blacks and Latinos can begin to compete for those contracts. We'll provide wrap-up bonding and insurance. We'll make certain that people are able to lease equipment rather than being required to own that equipment. And at the end of the day, we want to have an access to capital loan made by the city to emerging contractors and hopeful contractors without red tape that will allow them to pay their lease equipment rental prices or bills and pay their first several months of payroll. And then you'll have more blacks, Latinos, and even Asians in the contracting business in the city of Chicago who are able to hire people who look like them.
What about promoting that job growth in other areas, however? Because that seems to be a big problem in our communities as well.
That's that small business program that I talked about. We don't have real industry in Chicago. Not since the stockyards have we had an industry to call our own. So we need to seed all of these small businesses. Some of them are technology businesses, some of them are garment businesses, some of them are food service businesses in our communities. We want to seed them. That $1 million grant becomes important because through those neighborhood businesses, we begin to see where our real opportunities lie. We look into the future and we wonder what's Chicago gonna be like. They closed down the steel mills, and we don't have real industry. So we want to empower neighborhood businesses to do those kinds of things.
We will now proceed to your closing statement. You have 1 minute.
Sure.
Thank you.
It's really a pleasure to be here with all of you. We're not hitting on all 8 cylinders under Rahm Emanuel. We have to establish irreproachable public safety services, develop and efficiently maintain our public infrastructure. We have to enrich the Department on Aging to ensure the health and well-being of our senior citizens. We have to provide a superior free education for each and every individual child. We have to reprogram the Mayor's Office of Employment and Training to train and retrain adults. We have to spend more money on education, rehabilitation, and skill development, and a whole lot less money on incarceration. We have to take that box off of the application so that at least people get an opportunity to present themselves before an employer before their application is thrown away. So working together, we can make Chicago everything that it ought to be, everything that it was projected to be. We're off track under Rahm Emanuel. Punch 5, William Doc Walls for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming and good luck to you. Very well, very well. Well, we have one more candidate. I continue to see a lot of familiar faces. Rodrigo, you're still here, right? Rodrigo, why don't you come over here for a minute, please? Let's give Rodrigo a motivational applause. Just like most people in this room, Rodrigo, I've known you for a long time. And yes, why don't you stand right over here so we're able to see your face in the camera. I know you've worked with Resurrection Project. You know a lot about the issues that we face, people losing their homes, people losing employment, the need for financial education. Now you are in the health sector, if I recall correctly, from the last time I saw you. What do you think about what we've heard thus far in those areas in this forum?
Well, currently I'm actually at La Casa Norte. And
so you're somewhere else now. Yeah. That's good to know.
Yeah, so...
difference maker.
Yeah. So working with homeless youth and families, and that's something that we really need to hear the candidates talk more about. What are we going to do about homelessness in Chicago, and what are the strategy plans for that? So that's what I'm looking for.
Going back a little bit to your previous experience, people losing homes, lack of jobs, money. Is there anything that you've liked thus far of what the candidates have said?
I think they should touch base a little bit more about community wealth building and what that looks like for our communities. You talk about banking and having our communities are underbanked and sometimes not banked, and what does that mean, and how can we teach them, and how can we enhance those services for our communities?
What about the health sector?
Probably not as familiar in the health sector, to be honest.
But you as a citizen of the city of Chicago, knowing all the challenges that we face?
Yeah, I mean, creating more access to it and actually having, more informational aspects of the Affordable Care Act and how that's going to impact everybody.
Do you feel the candidates are putting enough emphasis on our youth in regards to everything?
I think you can always put more emphasis on our youth in regards to everything, so.
Do you? Okay, so that says it all pretty much. Thank you. Rodrigo, it's a pleasure seeing you. We got to connect again so you can tell me all about your new position. Thank you very much. Un aplauso a Rodrigo. Let's give Rodrigo a big round of applause. And for those of you watching at home, the reason why I'm trying to bring, in between every break, people from different organizations is because I want to give you at home, at work, wherever you are, an idea of all the different areas that all these nonprofits cover. I'm talking about all the members from the Illinois Latino Agenda. And it's very, very important. Oh, we have another speaker that wants to participate? Okay, well, sure. We're ready for the next candidate. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, you know what? Can we do it after? I promise. What is your name? Giselle, I'll make sure I'll call you. Let's give Giselle a big round of applause. Okay, Mr. Wilson is ready, right? Okay, let's give a big round of applause to Mr. William Wilson, please. Buenos dias. Good morning. I want to remind you, you have 18 minutes to talk about your proposal. If you were elected to be the mayor of the city of Chicago, at that point, I will then ask you 4 questions. You will have 1 minute to respond for each question, and then we'll give you the opportunity to do a closing statement, which will be 1 minute as well, okay?
Okay, after this, is that the clock?
This is Terry Arvezu. She's our timekeeper, and she will make sure that, that you stay on track. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let me start by thanking the Lord for his amazing grace. And to all of you all here, and thank you for my invite to come this morning and address you. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson. I'm running for mayor of the city of Chicago. I'm always open to tell the truth. Whether I get your vote or not, by telling the truth, if it's not the right thing, but I'm going to say the truth and hope that we can earn it by being honest, all right? I won't do anything to be political. You know, I'm not a politician, I'm a business person. I'm from Gilbert, Louisiana, 7th grade education. I ran away from home, haven't been back to school. Okay, left from Louisiana and went to Delray Beach, Florida. From there, we left picking butterbean tomatoes and picking cotton, chopping cotton, 20 cents per hour we made there. Today, we own a medical supply company, does a little bit over $60 million a year in sales. I'm independent, I'm Baptist, my religion. I put about $1.6 million of my own money into this campaign. I'm not going to be bought by anybody. You know, I don't go for that. I haven't asked any major corporation to give me any dollars. I don't want it, you know, because if I accept that from them, that means I owe them. I'm genuinely running for the citizen of Chicago. That's what I'm doing. So that's why I put my own money into this race. So we hope to win it, this race, and we are here to help people. There's no other motivation that I have than to help people. We give about $800,000 to $1 million a year to churches and organizations within my community and plus around the United States. We don't care what color you are, white, black, Latina, or what have you. That doesn't matter. You know, we're going to help all people that we can help. My agenda is pretty much a simple one: economic development, economic empowerment, education, public safety, and equal opportunity for all citizens of the city of Chicago as related to contract and job that people does with the city of Chicago. It had to reflect the community which is served. My idea of that is this, that I believe that economic empowerment is the key to success. If you don't have the success in terms of dollar-wise, make it difficult to get your kid to school and things of that nature. I think it's a more issue that this mayor we have right now, Mayor Emanuel, take $30 million for people to make contribution to him. I think he's sold out. That's who we owe Chicago to. I just speak to frankly about it. Is that I want to make sure that the people elect me, that I'm beholden to the people, not major corporation, or not even unions and things of that nature. And I've been very clear about that. I have not any problem with union, just that they need an equal opportunity for contracting job within those situations. Unless they deal with that, then I'm always going to have a problem with anybody, you know? Because I think it should reflect Chicago. I think Chicago should be branded as a city that looks after all its citizens from an equal opportunity standpoint of view. And that's where I come from. So I come to you today not sent by anybody, you know, not bought, you know.
so nobody don't have to tell me things like that, all right? So by myself being independently, I don't have to worry about tomorrow somebody firing me off a job, you know, because I say what I feel and things of that nature, you know, and so we'll continue to go that route. The thing that the mayor done last year was, this city, was that, you know, over $2 billion of the taxpayer dollars last year, less than 1% went to minority, you know, Black, Latina, et cetera, and less than 1% out of $2 million. Give you another case in point too. In certain neighborhoods, you build these CHAs a home. There were $1.2 billion that were given to building these homes, $1.2 billion. Well, out of that, only $144,000 went to minority, roughly, particularly African American community, or less than that in the Latino community. So that was all was given there when it should have been over $600 to $800 million should have been back to the community. If you get those kind of dollars back into your community, you can do good things with those, all right? The school system, out of the 50 school systems that were closed last year, 88% was in African American community, 10% Latina, 2% was other. You gotta be losing your mind to take and close 50 schools. You know, when the list was given to the mayor, it was about approximate 118 schools. Where he closed down the 50 schools. If this mayor get back elected, which I asked the question of the night, will he close down those other 69 schools? You know, that's something you have to think about, all right? Education is key to our kids' success, you know, in the world, so you don't mess with the education part of it. So he says that, look, we closed these schools down because of education. Well, education don't mean a thing if you guys send your kid to gang territory and they get shot up and killed. That's a total different thing, you know, so you have to think about that when you make a decision. You also got to think about the school teacher that lost their job, the janitor that lost their job, you know, the person the secretary that lost their job, the person that mopped the floors, the landscaper that lost his job. You destroy a whole community with just a void. What I would do the whole thing is that I would consult back with the community, see how many of those schools we can open back up. If we can open up 50% of them back, that's good. If the other schools are closed back up, the 25 schools, the 25 schools, we will open up trade in those schools. That when a kid get out of school, that they got a trade that they can do, have a job, and they can do some business with, all right? But we'll also make it possible to set up an economic development fund. So when they get out of school, they can borrow their money and go in their own businesses. Sell the school, the vacant lot, for $1. It's just sitting there, all right? Let them start a business and do business with the city of Chicago, as opposed to those major corporations doing business, taking the money out of the neighborhood, leaving the neighborhood like a desert storm, okay? So we have to think about the lives of our kids, because kids are our future, you know. I'm running, and listen, I'm gonna take a paycheck, but I'm gonna give it away. You know, I'm gonna give it to the churches and the organization. Simple fact that the Lord have blessed me to be able to make a living, you know, through my businesses, you know. So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna get back with the rest of our life, my wife and I, to the community, because the simple fact is that we all must win together, you know. The rich can't just take the taxpayer dollars, all right, and let the other community just go down here. You create problems. I would fire, if related to public safety, I would fire the superintendent of police, and I've been point blank open with that. He failed the citizens of Chicago. You know, all the people that got killed. I would put 4 superintendent of police and break Chicago into 4 districts. So you got 4 superintendent of police that you can get closer to your community and closer to the people, you know, in your community. Then you can take them out of their cars, a lot of the cars. They can ride the buses, ride the subway, the L, get closer to the people. I wouldn't hire any more police. We've done that in the past. These police comes out, and you hire more. We're no Vietnam, you know, or Desert Storm, you know. We are a people that you need to be friendly with and polite. You need to integrate the police department so that we can talk to one another. I did a press conference the other day in terms of at the police department. Less than 8% of the lieutenant, the sergeant, make up the police department. It is represented by minority when it should be 32%. You know, how you expect for people to get along when people doesn't look like people in your neighborhood or integrate, and you stop in a car and they end up with these problems getting shot down or I can't breathe situation or the Ferguson situation. You know, I get scared every time police stop me, you know, that don't look like me. Listen, I admit this here. I don't understand a lot of things about a lot of people, a lot of community, but this much I do understand. We must integrate our police force, integrate our neighborhood so we all can learn our ways and how to relate to one another, all right? So these are things that are critical in order to make sure that we have the things the right way. Because our kids today, you know, get out of school, some don't get out of school, they commit crime, and they go to prison, to jail. Well, it just continues to recycle itself. Well, the reason it recycles itself because we don't have the economic empowerment, the job, and the business in our community. How do you stop that? Well, in my opinion, our kids that in school, in prison, you got to take and put trade in those prisons. So when they get out of prison, they got a trade, and they can get out with a job, and they can get out with a business. And we must set it up that way. It's not good enough to be able to have a diploma without a trade, you know. But it's not good enough to have a trade unless you got the money in order to help get started into business. So we must set those elements up and make sure that everybody benefit from a branded city as Chicago the way it should be. But if you have your special interest to your major corporation that is out here getting all the money, well, that's who you owe your livelihood to. I'm running for mayor of the city of Chicago to make sure I can change things. But I'm running for mayor of Chicago to make sure that nobody done bought me, nobody done sent me to do things. I don't need the money, you know, don't want the money if it meant selling our people out. That ain't me. These are the reasons why I'm running. I have no other motive than that. I would run the city of Chicago just like I run my business. You know, I have to cut costs, I have to make budget in my business, otherwise I'm out of business. You know, I have to make sure that in my business we got black, Latina, white, we got Chinese, etc. in my business, you know. And so I believe that it should be that way so we can communicate all segments of our community. So this is my record. My track record been given every year for the last 25 or 30 some years or more, $700,000, $800,000 to $1 million a year to the churches and organizations. That's my record. You know, I haven't just started this year, you know, because the fact of it is that you're gonna have things financially, but I still gotta go to bed at night. And I gotta sleep with myself, and I gotta understand one thing, if I done something wrong, I got a conscience. You know, all people is the same to me because the Lord made us all, you know. But outside of that, my story is simple. My life is simple. We all people, you know. We should all love one another. We're no special than anybody else. I've been to the White House, talk with the President and the Queen. I go all the way to talking to people and helping people who's on Lower Wacker Drive with families sleeping down there on the ground. I give to the people that is in the street outside of the churches. I give away approximate $30,000 to $40,000 a month to people on sleeping because they don't have bank accounts. You know, I don't even write that off. I don't want to write it off. You know, to say get a tax break. If I did that, that's me. I haven't done nothing. You know, so we give that because they don't have bank account. But the person who is out there sleeping on Wacker Drive on the ground, that person can help me if it got cold and I had to survive. Could help me survive the cold. All right. So everybody's special. Everybody's special. But knowing this here is that you or I could be on the street or sleeping the same way next week or next month. You know, things changes, you know. So this is where I come from because of my background. When Mama was down south, my mother, we didn't have no food to eat. We'll go next door to the neighbor, and the neighbor would give us some bread. That's all we had, bread, you know. So Mama would borrow. When we would get bread, we would take and do the same thing to our neighbor. we were taught that. We didn't have locked doors. Anybody could come in and walk right in. You know, people we eat, anybody on the street could come in. We did the same thing. When lunchtime, everybody was family. We went in and sat at the table and started eating. You know, of course, today in Chicago, you got to have your door locked, you know? So but those things from which I come, you know, so that's about where I'm at. I'm not going to be political, give you a political answer, you know. I don't want to vote if I got to give a political answer, you know. Let the people decide themselves how they want it. I don't want their job that bad if I got to lie about it, you know. But I come sincerely with you that no other candidate they have. I am the only business person that have ran a business and hired over 30 to 40,000 people in my lifetime and have balanced budget that nobody else have balanced a budget. The other people that are talking to you out here, they are trying to balance budget on our money, not money that they have. That's a big difference, you know. But I've had to balance budget, you know. I won't mess with your taxpayer dollars and trying to experiment on an idea. My ideas, I have proven now, being in business and make sure we use those dollars. So I'll take some questions, and I think that's about all I want to just say on my behalf, and I hope I made a case to earn your vote. If not, I'll still pray for you, all right?
Mr. Wilson, obviously you're a very successful businessman, but you were not born a successful businessman. You had to start somewhere. And there's a lot of Latinos nowadays that perhaps might be in the same situation that you were years ago. But unfortunately, because the median income level for Latinos is lower than the rest of the city of Chicago and the state, they struggle. How can you make sure that there's income equality in our city if you happen to be elected the next mayor of the city of Chicago?
Well, let me correct you. It ain't if I happen to be elected mayor of Chicago, I'm going to be elected mayor of Chicago, all right?
Very well.
All right, mark my word, I said it here, all right? But here's what I would do. That's the idea. See, some things that we can get out and we can fight about, but I believe in the laws of the United States of America. We'll introduce legislation that says that anybody who does business with the city of Chicago at $2 billion, law has to we'll pass laws that says it has to be an equal opportunity for a contracting job. So if I get a $1 million or $500,000 contract, or $5 million contract, whatever it may be, it must reflect the population. Now, African American approximate 30-some percent, Latino almost about the same or more, so it had to reflect those make up the community, so it's empowered jobs and community back in that by law, and we would enforce it. We'll put a community up to do that.
Homicides have been reducing in 2014. Shootings continue to be a problem. You mentioned while you were speaking diversity in the police department. So how would you make sure that you have that diversity when you hire more police officers, and what other strategies are you going to be implementing to fight crime?
We'll set up a community group that reflect all the community, Latina, African American, white, Asian American, and to have what you call, I guess some people prefer it as a watchdog, you know, to make sure that everything is being followed according to reflect the community of the city of Chicago, you know. But they will watch and give ideas, give suggestions, but we also had a community to raid the police department, all right? We'll also put in a force that says, look, on the police department is one thing, but we'll have another set of policemen that report direct to me. So that way, when something happens, it's independent of the police department, so if something happens, they're right on the scene there to make sure we're being treated fairly and equally, you know, to bring this down, you know. So police stop, the 911 call go out, the other one will be out there to make sure that nobody gets hurt or misused, right?
Many parents' goal is to send their kids to the best schools. Unfortunately, in the city of Chicago, the top 4 high schools, the Latino enrollment is down. And that's a big problem. So what would your philosophy be to change that?
Well, it'd be a simple thing like this here is that you have to have compassion for people in order to make sure that everybody feel the same. You have to put economic empowerment, jobs, and businesses within those communities, to make sure that it can help give the growth that it needs to farm and family home. You have to deal with this situation and make sure that all people are treated equal, communicate with the community. You can't do it by yourself. You got to make sure that you get people hired in the city of Chicago under my administration. Latino will be hired and reflect the community. Black, white, Asian will reflect the community. That's how you begin to make sure that those people make those decisions. But the other thing is too is that even though they're hired by me, they won't have to worry about fear of their job if they say the wrong thing.
But how do we make sure that Latinos have access to these schools?
Well, I would make sure that they're put into the schools, put into the administration, head up those different departments, and make sure that they'll help focus my administration, meaning from school A to Z, whatever that might be. I would include them. It's inclusion. Inclusion just simply means that, hey, you can talk to me, you can help make decisions, you in these particular areas to make things happen.
Very well. You are, like I mentioned before, a businessman. You said you're not running for the money. You don't need the money.
No.
But there's a lot of people in the city of Chicago who do need money because there are not enough jobs. Mm-hmm. And while unemployment has been reducing dramatically over the last 4 years, the reality is that Latino communities, and especially the African American communities as well, they need more jobs. As a businessman, I'm sure many people might be wondering and might be anxious to hear what your plan is to create job growth.
Mm-hmm. Here what we would do is start creating job and economic development and empowerment. I will open my mag field, does $300 million a year. Those contracts and those jobs reflect the community. Latina would get those particular jobs proportionally. I will open up a casino. If you go out into Joliet, our neighbor state and things like that, you see Chicago stickers on that. They'll support no casino. Why not have a casino in Chicago that the community can own itself?
But how would you get the support for the casino? Because that's,
Well,
we've talked about that in the past.
The casino is whether whoever is mayor, that casino is coming to Chicago, all right? Look, they're gonna be there. Or you get a casino, you play lotto, let's get a Chicago lottery, all right? But reduce taxes, make sure that we keep our businesses in Chicago, like gasoline taxes, they're high. You gotta go to other part of the community to get gas and everything. Reduce those taxes, increase business, economic development funds up there so people can have the money to start their own business. As your mayor, we will enforce that.
Thank you for your answer. You can now proceed to your closing statement.
Okay. Well, my closing statement is this right here, and I always will end with my prayer. I'm Baptist, and I'm prayer. I don't believe that I owe nothing to anybody but the Lord. If He straightened me out, then it's helped other people. First Corinthians said, "For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself a servant unto all, that I might gain the more." David put it this way, he said, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and we dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever." And dear Lord, we thank you for guiding us on this day. Thank you for bringing us here, Lord. And we thank you, Lord, because thou art God, and beside thee there is no other God. Bless everybody who's here today, Lord, on the sound of my voice. And bless the commentator and bless the people who put this on. And let them know that you're God and that nothing happens unless you make it happen. Bless those who are sick and shut in everywhere. And now, Lord, as we get ready to leave this place, I hope my own self that I've said some words that are pleasing in thy sight, O Lord, and that I've done what you sent me here to do. And what you sent me here to do is tell the truth. And I ask you, Lord, that forgive us all for our thinking, our mind, our wrongdoing, and our sin. And as we get ready to leave this and go out for lunch, dear Lord, let us not forget when we eat lunch to say thank you for the food. Guide us home today, O Lord, in the cars, and when we get home. And let them know, dear Lord, that we didn't drive ourselves home, but you drove us home. When we kneel at night, dear Lord, to let us not forget to say our prayer and say thank you for another day, O Lord. And we thank you, Jesus, for these blessings, dear Lord. Now that we get ready to go, bless everybody in here, dear Lord.
Thank you,
Everybody
Mr.
in here with
Wilson.
sound mind. These blessings in Jesus' name we pray for his sake. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good luck to you. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you. Thank you. Very well. Those are all the candidates, Sylvia. Pásale para acá. Let's give Sylvia a big round of applause. First of all, congratulations to you and all your team for putting this event together. Thank you for allowing us to participate, and hopefully we can do it again in the next election, whatever it might be.
Every election. So let's give it up for Enrique. Was he not a great moderator? Thank you so much. And as you can imagine, an event like this is a heavy lift. We really could not have done it, and want to thank Terry from Univision News Director and Octavio from OI and CAN TV. This has been an unprecedented event. It is the first time that we have ever had a simultaneously translated mayoral forum in Chicago's history. So we really want to acknowledge that and recognize that, because the Latino community is a growing portion of Chicago's electorate. We're 20% and growing. We want to thank and acknowledge our translators again. They have been fantastic, Roberto and Catalina. And because we had to keep this a smaller audience, we really want to acknowledge and thank Instituto Progreso Latino and Erie, who had watch parties, and we don't get to see you, but we hope you're still watching, and thank you. This event you will be able to see again. You'll be able to watch it over the weekend up until the election on CAN TV, on Univision, and in OI. Go to the Latino Policy Forum website for the details of that. So really encourage your friends and family to come out and watch. An event like this couldn't have been done without lots of support. So I really have to acknowledge and thank again the amazing team of those that I've thanked and the Latino Policy Forum. Thanks to Adriana for getting all the fantastic media here. But a special shout out to Martin. Where is he? He kept us all on task. He walked out. He walked out with Mr. Wilson, but he kept us all on task and was even here at 8 o'clock at night putting up these screens. So really, it really was a team effort. I want to let you know that we also have a candidate questionnaire. If you haven't seen it, again, go to latinopolicyforum.org. The candidate questionnaire is in English and in Spanish, and you can share it with your friends and family. This is our commitment as a growing Latino community with the Latino Policy Forum, our Illinois Latino Agenda, to make sure that you all, community leaders, educated voters, have the resources and information you need to vote for the candidate that best reflects your values and your interests. That's been our purpose here today. We know that we have a very important election in just a few days. That Chicago is at a critical juncture. We really appreciate your presence here today. You're taking the whole morning to be with us today. And we look forward to continuing to empower the Latino community through our collective efforts. Adelante y gracias.
Gracias, Silvia. And there is Martin. Martin, un aplauso para Martin, por favor. Thank you for all the hard work. And you know what, Silvia, to end this up, me ganaste. I'm so proud to hear that Erie Neighborhood House and Instituto have watching parties. I mean, for a forum, that is awesome. We always talk about watching parties for football and, soccer and all those sports, right? But this is exactly what we want to do. A civic engagement, participation. We need to make sure that we continue promoting that. Thank you so much. And if you have any more doubts about the candidates, don't forget, you can also go to univisionchicago.com. We're doing our very best to provide you what you need to make an educated decision. Thank you. God bless you, everybody.